I've noticed that it like when watching it back, it starts pretty immediately, so we could probably just jump right into it. But it's always better to test your audio levels when you're
Okay,
starting off.
I've got the sound up.
See?
There you go. So it works. We're good.
We're
We're
good.
live.
We're live. All right. Okay. We can start the thing in three, two, one. This podcast is brought to you by the Arate Podcast Network. Please go to aratemedia.org to see plenty of podcasts from our friends, as well as if you want to start your own podcast, you can check them out at aratemedia.org. That's ARETE media.org. On with the show, Jordan.
On with the show, Justin.
Welcome, everybody, to our epic, probably going to be long, Season 2 premiere of the Spur of the Moment podcast. I am your host, Justin Spurr, and I am joined, as always, fresh back from our maybe separate, maybe together vacations. Nobody knows. Nobody can verify that. The incomparable Jordan, everybody. He's here. He's
I'm
he's
I'm
he,
pretty I'm pretty incomparable.
he's come back for season 2. We didn't kill him off in between the seasons. I don't imagine we're gonna kill him off this season either.
Unless I'm secretly a clone and nobody knows.
No, I mean, we went to Japan this week. There's clones afoot. It could happen. So coming up today, there's a new sponsor in the sponsor section. We're pretty excited to talk about that. That's gonna be fun. We have all sorts of news. We got news from this week. We got news from last week. We got some news that we missed. It's gonna be a real news palooza. News probably gonna go on for a little bit. And then part 1 of the 2-part season premiere is animation from Japan. Some of it is anime. Some of it, depending on what your definition of anime is, could be anime. We'll talk about it. It's gonna be fun. Let's just jump into the news. Jordan, do our news jingle. Stop! It's terrible. It's bad every time. I don't know why I asked for it. It's bad. It's not good. To start off with, we have to, and we're gonna talk about some of his stuff, but we have to get kind of a bummer up top. We have to talk about while we were away midweek. I had to come out of my vacation to talk about it on TikTok. Akira Toriyama died, and we're not gonna devote an entire episode to him like our friends at the Average Intelligence podcast they did a whole episode on it. We're not going to do that. We're going to talk about some of his works later, but
It's a shame.
That's a real bummer. It's a real shame.
It's a real shame.
And like I've seen so many people with like bad Dragon Ball takes, like just bad Dragon Ball takes, where it's like, oh my goodness, you couldn't have waited like a week, man. And it's like people have been like, oh, it wasn't influential. And
Oh, it was influential.
do you like Supersonic?
I like Supersonic.
You know what you could thank for Supersonic, Jordan?
You could thank Super Saiyan.
You can thank Super Saiyan. You can thank Dragon Ball for that. Jordan, do you like the concept of transformations in shonen anime?
I mean, I absolutely do.
You know who you could thank
And
for
you
that?
can thank Akira
You
Toriyama.
can thank Akira Toriyama for that. Do you like the concept of watching guys fly through the sky and punch each other a bunch?
I mean, who doesn't?
I mean, I don't think that he exclusively created that, but he definitely influenced it.
Do you like Silver the Hedgehog from the 2006 Sonic the Hedgehog game? I mean, I don't know why you would. Most people don't like anything from that game, but do you? Because he's basically Future Trunks.
Yeah, but you can thank Future Trunks for that. You can thank his existence for that. But
yeah.
Actually, no, there's a surprising amount of people who A, like that game for some reason, and B, like Silver the Hedgehog. Like there's like that's the reason he keeps coming back. He's a surprisingly popular character. But I mean, Sonic the Hedgehog kind of his franchise lives and dies on its characters, not on its games. Like
that's true.
The reason why that franchise is so enduring is not because the games have been very good, because they haven't been. But
you know why people like Silver the Hedgehog? Because they actually like Future Trunks.
He's just Future Trunks.
He's just Future Trunks.
He's just Future Trunks. Like I think even like there's like it was like Did You Know Gaming where it was like in the notes for the game itself, it was like Silver the Hedgehog : think Future Trunks.
I believe it was actually in the extra menus of that game where it was like like one of the unlockables was like the character designs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I believe it was literally on there in the game.
Yeah, in the character. Well, you could see it like in the notes for the designs or whatever. Yeah. It was like think Future Trunks, and like there's something in the code up for him that is a direct reference to Future Trunks. Like, and I can't remember what it is.
Ah,
And, yeah,
that's
in
funny.
the game's code, yeah, it's like future. It's like something Mirai or something, which is like a future reference to Future Trunks. But yeah, real bummer, real bummer. I think, and I mean, obviously, like condolences to family, friends, and colleagues, and all that. But it really made me go, man, Dragon Ball will be worse off because you're gonna get a lot more
Oh yeah.
like Dragon Ball Super, where it's fans writing it, thinking they know what they're talking about, and it's gonna be less like of a passion. Like that last show that he worked on is gonna be like the last kind of great Dragon Ball thing we get, I think, or certainly the last good one, I think, or maybe even the superhero movie. That one will probably be the last truly great Dragon Ball thing we got because he worked really heavily on that.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think the new show will be that good.
I I think it will because he worked on it. I've discovered that. I've discovered that the only time Dragon Ball is ever good is when he works on it directly, and he worked on that directly. And like we've talked about before, if he wants to take another stat, I will not judge until I see it. I learned that
Yeah.
lesson. I learned my lesson about prejudging a Dragon Ball thing because I prejudged superhero, um, and I was like, it looks bad, and then that it turned out to be probably the best Dragon Ball Z movie, Dragon Ball Super movie, other than maybe Broly. Like yeah, hot take. I think Dragon Ball Superhero is better than Battle of Gods. Hot take. Hot take.
I mean, I think Broly is the best out of all of them.
I do. As I said, it was the best. I was like, no, it's Broly. Broly is the best.
That
Broly
would
is
be
the
my
best one.
opinion.
Yeah, it's just the best movie. It looks the best. I mean, the only parts of it that don't look good is when they try to do like that half CGI, half 2D thing, which Japan loves, and it's awful. I was gonna say we're gonna talk
Mm,
about it because we will. Um, but yeah, it's overall real bummer to hear.
yeah.
And with that, we're gonna move on to unrelated. Well, we're gonna talk more about Dragon Ball Z later. Don't you worry. I got stuff planned. So apparently, they're working on a live action Teen Titans movie for the DCU.
I heard that. And I was
Yeah,
like,
right.
okay,
But
I guess.
I want something a little more the animated series and a little less the other animated series. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
don't make it like that terrible Titan show where Robin says fuck. Like I don't want that. I want it to be like a little more serious minded, a little like not silly, but like they're
Yeah.
like a teenage team. It should be lighthearted.
Like I want the energy level of like the Blue Beetle movie where it was
Yeah,
fun and it was like, you know,
it had
kind of a
moments that were
little
upsetting.
looser. Yeah. And kind of yeah, more like that. A
Yeah.
little less Christopher Nolan Batman, but definitely not Teen Titans Go, like
Not
somewhere
Teen
in
Titans. That's what I'm
between.
saying. That the original animated series felt kind of
Yeah,
like,
that's where I say
but
like Blue Beetle.
maybe I like dial up the seriousness just like a little bit because that's also kind of silly. But yeah, well, it's funny you say Blue Beetle because I thought I saw or I'd read somewhere that which I don't know, but he was gonna be in it because there wasn't any real intentions of like because that's just a thing now with especially with characters where that's another yeah we're gonna talk about another character that's similar but apparently he's not gonna get like his own movie but he's just gonna appear in other movies um
Interesting.
and so there's yeah I read
So like
I think I
so
read somewhere that he might be in it
so like the Hulk.
yeah like a Hulk yeah but I don't know I don't know um it's interesting though that DC is becoming a little more willing to like we can have multiple versions of the same characters. Like they're becoming a little more. I mean, maybe with James Gunn because James Gunn's like, yeah, Marvel's got like 5 Spider-Men. Like, get
Eh,
over it. Get over yourself. It's not confusing. People are smarter than this. Like, you know.
yeah, could
Um,
be.
so it's funny. Speaking of Spider-Man, Michael Keaton says he doesn't know why he was in Morbius.
I don't think anyone does.
And nobody knows why he was in that. What was he even setting up? Like he just got him in a field and put him in a suit. Nobody knows where did he get the wings? That post credit scene made no sense, and we all know it.
I never watched the movie, but I had heard about that, and it seemed to be setting up this idea that like the Sony verse was all part of the same multiverse, I
Yep,
guess,
yep,
as the MCU.
yep,
Like that's the idea, and that's the only
yep.
reason that exists, and like they cut whatever was going to come from it.
Well, they keep. It's funny because they keep adding Spider-Man references to these movies, and then in the post production they cut all of them but leave some of them so they don't make any sense. So like there were overt references. It was gonna be they had decided it was gonna be this is the Sam Raimi Spider-Man universe because there's pics of Sam Raimi Spider-Man in the background. The Daily Bugle was the Sam Raimi Daily Bugle. Like it was gonna be the Sam Raimi verse, and they like chickened out or changed their mind last second and cut all of them out, but left the Michael Keaton cameo in there for some reason, and that's what it was going to be a reference to. Because
Which makes
otherwise,
no sense.
there is no Spider-Man. I mean, it's like the best one of these where it was like the loose reference to Spider-Man. Is it's still Venom. Because that one was smart enough to be like the incident in New York and leave it just open enough that Spider-Man can or cannot exist depending on whether or not you want to use him. And they decided.
Yeah.
I still don't think they have decided. Although I don't know. There's rumors that they're on and off that Spider-Man's going to be in Venom 3. That's going to be Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, and he's in Venom 3. But who fucking knows with Sony? But speaking of Venom, they announced the title. And it's apparently the release date is getting moved up, so it's coming out earlier. But they've announced a title, which is going to be called Venom 3: The Last Dance. And supposedly, it's going to be the last solo Tom Hardy Venom movie. But Sony still plans to use the character in other things. So that's where I was like, kind of like Blue Beetle with the... But that's apparently so. And they're open to him being in Secret Wars, is what they've said. But my question is, who is he going to... Is it going to be him fighting Toxin? Because, like, really? We're going to do him fight the third symbiote? Why?
No, to me, you gotta
are lessening
else.
on these movies, man.
Like, you gotta do something other than another symbiote. You've done the symbiote too many times.
You gotta shake it up, man. Do have something different.
Give him some other villain, some Earth-based villain, mad scientist villain. I don't know. Do something.
I mean, have him fight Spider-Man.
That's not a symbiote.
Have him fight Spider-Man.
That's the thing that makes the most sense. But hey, what do I know?
I know, right? Just
and you don't even need to. You could have it be where that universe ends up having its own Spider-Man.
Yep.
Who, hey, here's an idea. Maybe in his universe, Spider-Man is actually a bad guy.
I mean, that'd be interesting. Or conversely, just have it be Andrew Garfield Spider-Man. Get a stunt guy. Never have him leave the costume and stick Andrew Garfield in a voiceover booth.
That works too.
Like just do it. I'm willing to let this go. This franchise is lazy. I don't have high expectations for it. They're enemies at first, and then something they're unlikely allies. We'll do that. Let's do that. It's fine.
But if you can't get Andrew Garfield back, you could still literally just do that movie and have a completely new person be Spider-Man.
I mean, you could, and then you could just be like, I mean, yeah, you could have him.
If none of the other ones are willing to come back, you could have just a new person come in and be Spider-Man.
Well, I've never understood.
Or you could use this as the excuse. You tag it on with the Venom movie, so it's not a risk, and you have this universe's Miles Morales.
Yeah. I don't want a live action Miles Morales. I don't. I've maintained that I don't want that. But the thing about Spider-Man I've never understood is like why he doesn't cameo more. Like, he should be cameoing, like, the most out of all these guys because he's wearing a mask where you can't see his face. The same thing with Deadpool. Deadpool should show up in way more shit because it's just get a guy, put him in the car, get a guy who's, like, roughly the same build as Tom Holland or Ryan Reynolds, stick him in the suit, and put Ryan Reynolds and Tom Holland in a voiceover booth from their apartment. Like, this should be, like, it's so funny that Tom Holland's like, I don't want to be being Spider-Man for the rest of my life. This should be so easy for you. You should have to do none of the physical work and just have a guy in a fucking costume, like just hire a really good stunt guy, have him do all the physical work, and you just do voiceover. Like, this character should show up a bajillion times in like a bajillion different things, and he doesn't, and it's mind-boggling.
In terms of Spider-Man, it's because of Sony and their legal issues.
Yeah.
I can't speak for Deadpool why they don't do that with. I guess because he's not serious enough of a character, and they don't want him in all their serious movies.
I guess not, but still, that's my thing with these characters who have like full face masks. Where it's like we're at this stage now, and I mean I said the same thing about Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. It always drove me crazy. How hard was it to get him in a voiceover booth? Like, how hard was it?
back then, harder than it is now.
I mean, no, it wasn't. You know how they had voiceover over a live action back then. Put a guy in a stunt double in the suit and get him in a voiceover booth. Like, I don't understand this. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, why is this character not talking? Anyway, moving on. They've announced the Among Us voice cast, and there's some interesting ones. So we got
Among Us voice cast?
yeah, they're making a TV show.
Of course they are.
So,
Weirdly enough, I could see it.
right? I mean, we've talked about it on here before.
Have we?
Yeah.
I've been gone for a week. I don't remember what we've talked about.
That was in season 1. Nobody remembers what happened in season 1.
Nobody remembers that. We're on to season 2, baby.
Everyone always knows that the show only gets good in season 2. You have to put up with season 1. That's the
you get through season 1. Season 2 is when it starts to get good. Season 3 is when it's really good. Season 4 is the height, the apex of it all, and then it's all downhill.
Then we start to fight by season 5. It gets really snippy, and then we break up.
And then I have my solo career, and I go off into the sunset.
I hire a new guy to try to replace you. It's not quite as good. But it's almost as good, and like the really die-hard fans threaten to kill the people who are like it's not as good as it used to be. That's how these things go.
And it just becomes really toxic.
It becomes super toxic, and I refuse to acknowledge it. And by this point, I'm on like my 3rd co-host, and it's a girl for some reason.
And then in the 13th season, because I think that's a funny number, then I come back for the dramatic reunion, and the show gets a resurgence in popularity.
And obviously, you cry.
I mean, you cry, I cry.
No,
I don't
cry. I don't cry. I'm stoic.
You cry. No. You turn your head away from the camera as tears roll down your face, and you're like, "It's a shame it's raining today," and everyone knows you're crying, but we don't acknowledge that you're crying.
Yes. That's exactly what's gonna happen.
See, we've planned out our entire roadmap of the Spurr of the Moment podcast radio universe.
6 seasons in a movie.
Yeah. Anyways, news.
The cast of Among Us. Ashley Johnson.
Right.
Ashley Johnson will be playing Purple.
Oh, I would have said yellow.
Elijah Wood is green.
He feels like a green.
Randall Park is red.
I don't know who that is, but he sounds like a red.
Randall Park is Asian Jim.
Oh, yeah, he's a red. No, I would have said blue. He feels like a blue.
Yvette Nicole Brown is orange. Who remember Drake and Josh?
Yes.
You remember Josh's boss at the movie theater?
I think so.
Her.
Okay.
Yeah, but this is just that's a good cast. Just a solid cast. I mean,
it's not any weirder of a concept than the Emoji Movie.
No, that will always be the pinnacle of weird concepts. But no, it's one of those franchises that I was just like, yeah. It was like same thing I always said about Angry Birds. A cheap cash in Hollywood shit movie was not what I meant. But like that had real Saturday morning cartoon. Like it felt like a franchise I would have watched when I was a kid in the 90s. And Among Us is kind of like that.
I can see why you would say that.
Yeah. Among Us feels like it was on a show that would be on Teletoon at like 10 o'clock. If Canadian, that's a Canadian reference.
I would have said
Adult Swim for America.
Yeah, Adult Swim.
That was basically our Adult Swim, more or less.
I could see it. I could absolutely see that.
Yeah. So Giancarlo Esposito, he wants to play the MCU's Professor X. This is but with one change.
I don't know who that is.
Yes, you do. It's Gus from Breaking Bad.
Oh. I could see it. Sorry. What the audience will learn as this show goes on is I am terrible with names.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, I see what he's getting at. Sorry, I'm just reading the article. He wants to play Magneto, but he doesn't want him to be in a wheelchair. Which, like, that feels like...
He has to be in a wheelchair.
I mean, that just feels ableist to me. Because,
why?
Because it's ableist in the sense that, I'm sorry, like a character that people who have wheelchairs like love and like is iconic because of his wheelchair. You want to take his one iconic defining because you see being disabled as being less than, right? He's like, oh, there was a time where he wasn't disabled, yeah. So people know him for that. I mean, it doesn't define
Well,
him.
especially if you're doing it in regards to an X-Men movie. No, by the time he's met the X-Men, he's in the wheelchair. If you want to do like a separate standalone Charles Xavier movie, which is like when he's 20 and it's before he's in a wheelchair,
Yeah.
sure, that's one thing. As long as by the end of the movie he's in the wheelchair.
Now, unless what I've just said is completely wrong, and him being in the wheelchair is ableist, I'm always confused about ableism. But it just feels bad. It feels bad to be like, no, I don't want that gross wheelchair shit. like, I
Well,
don't.
to me, it's even ignoring that fact, which, yes, you're right, but even ignoring that fact, it's a pretty important staple of his character.
I mean,
He's
no,
in, he's,
not really.
yes, he's in the
That
wheelchair.
that I can. Well, yes, it's a thing he's known for, but I wouldn't say it's like, in terms of it being a story or character device. No, you can one of those take or leave kind of
No,
things.
yes, no, it is very much one of those. That's why he's the mentor of the X-Men. That's not why if he was able to run around and be part of the adventure, he would be the leader of the
Yeah,
X-Men.
but there's certain comics where he is the leader of the. It's when you have a character. I mean, I'm sure there are versions of him in the comic. That's the thing. When you have a character that's existed and been around long enough, I'm sure there's a version of him that came out of the wheelchair, especially with the X-Men. They die and come back to life so often that.
Nah, hard pass.
But it's just I mean, to me, it's the ableism stuff where it's like I don't know. It feels icky for him to be like no.
I ride or die with him in the
Um,
wheelchair.
but he wants. I saw a thing where he was like, I want. He wants to be Professor X, and he wants Denzel Washington to be Magneto, and I'm like, all right.
I mean, that's different.
Yeah, it's different. I mean,
That's a choice. That's a choice.
that's certainly a choice. I like Denzel Washington, so it's not a choice I'm against. But
Per
I
se.
per se, I don't know. I just don't know that I want old Charles Xavier and old. I mean, I like someone like sort of middle of between James McAvoy and you know what I mean, like a someone who's not like an old ass man, but someone who's not like a young guy.
Like 50.
Yeah, or a guy in his 40s, maybe 40 late mid 40s. But someone who's not like 70 or 80. Although I don't think those guys are 70 or 80. I don't know how old they are. Anyway,
I have no idea.
apparently they're making a Cat in the Hat movie. Apparently
But
there's a
again?
new animated movie that's coming out in 2025, and um,
Illumination?
I don't know, Warner Brothers apparently.
Oh,
Um,
interesting.
and Bill Hader is reportedly been cast to play the Cat in the Hat. Which
Hmm.
I don't know. I don't know if it's gonna be. It just says Cat in the Hat movie. It doesn't say if it's gonna be an adaptation of the first book again, or I
Okay.
stand by the fact that they should do the Grinch is the Cat in the Hat and do a crossover, do
Yeah,
it
well,
animated.
that's where I thought that's why I was like, is it Illumination? Because if it's Illumination, then I could be like, okay, maybe they're queuing up for
That'd be kind of fun.
a mix between their Grinch and but
Yeah,
maybe not. I don't know. It's too vague for me to have an opinion on.
I know, right? Other than I like Bill Hader, and it's funny because he's already played the Cat in the Hat.
Has he?
Yeah, he played the Cat in the Hat in a live action in a sketch on SNL where it was he was making fun of the Mike Myers version. So he's technically already been the
Ah,
Cat in the Hat, technically speaking, if you squint at it in a certain way. Um,
interesting.
apparently they're still making that Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic remake, which I thought
Oh
got
yeah,
canceled.
I
Yeah,
thought that got
they
canceled.
said it got canceled, but apparently it's coming out in 2025.
Interesting. I guess there was enough fan demand for it that they changed their mind.
I guess. I mean, I'm excited for that one. I've always wanted to play that game, and I have no interest in playing the original. In fact, I don't think I can play the original.
You could. It's on cell phones.
Yeah, nah. Um,
I've played the original. I like the original. I'm interested to see what they do with a
I was
remake.
always very sad that Old Republic failed because that I like that game. That game was fun. Um,
The MMO,
yeah.
it didn't fail. It's still ongoing.
I mean, it went free to play. The minute a game goes free to play, it's it. That's it. It's toast. It loses most of its quality of life, and it slowly dies. And I don't. Are there still servers?
Pretty sure there are.
I heard that the last one shut down a while ago, but that's surprising
I,
to me.
I I don't know. I haven't kept track of it. I
That game
thought
was
it still did.
frustrating because it had solo areas that you could only go in with so like if you were a Jedi, I was like level 39, and because we used to play MMOs at breakneck speeds, we'd like bust through quests, but we'd be under leveled because we were just so fast. So like I got to a point where you had to go in solo as a Jedi or with other Jedi's to beat a boss, but I was too low a level to do it by myself, and like it wasn't, you couldn't like, yeah, it was too hard to group with people because it was still new and I couldn't. And then I'd heard that the end game was terrible. There was no end game content. So I'm like, yeah, I don't really feel all that motivated to finish this, and I never did. I think the highest I got was like level 39, and then I never finished it.
Yeah. Part of the problem too was
I got stuck.
we weren't playing it with our usual people.
Yeah,
And so it just became a single player game, which was not a single player game.
yeah. They wanted you to team up, but the thing was, it wouldn't like you'd be running around, and there'd be other people who were different classes around you. Like there's points where I team up with other classes, and like that's kind of the idea with these games is you want to team up with other classes, right, to balance out a party. But then you'd hit these sections where it's like, yeah, only Jedi can do this, and there's no other Jedi around. So like you go and try to fight it by yourself, and you see other people who could help you, but they're not Jedi, so they can't help you. So I got stuck. Or the other one that was kind of like that was Guild Wars, where I went through the
Guild
quests so
War, Guild,
fast.
Guild Wars 2,
Yeah, I
technically.
went through and there was nothing. I couldn't figure out. I couldn't find any things to get experience, and I couldn't. I got stuck, and I had to quit. And I've never gone back. And speaking of Star Wars stuff that apparently didn't get canceled, which they said it was canceled, was that Patty Jenkins being the woman who directed Wonder Woman, she was helmed to direct a Rogue Squadron movie.
Oh yeah.
Um, and it
Okay.
and it was gonna be like it was gonna be kind of like a World War. It was gonna be sort of similarly themed to a World War II plane fighter movie, but in Star Wars, and her Wonder Woman 1984 was terrible and bombed, and nobody liked it. And when that happens with directors, Disney yanks Star Wars projects away from them. It's happened a bunch. So like Josh Trank, the guy who directed Fan Four Stick, and he directed Chronicle. He got Fan Four Stick off of the back of Chronicle, and then obviously we know what happened with Fan Four Stick. He got kicked off of his Star Wars project because of that. Same thing with they hired on the guys who made Game of Thrones to do a Star Wars movie, and the last season of Game of Thrones did really badly, and everyone fucking hated it, and they got kicked off of it. So everyone thought she got kicked off of this movie. So it's surprising to see that it's still coming. I'm not against it. To me, I'm never against a Star Wars thing or a Marvel thing for that matter. When it tries to be different, and that sounds different. It definitely sounds different.
I need to see a trailer before I render any judgment.
I mean, it's a modern Star Wars thing. It's going to be dark and muted. That's what they look like now.
I stand by what I said.
And then Street Sharks. Street Sharks are back. They're bringing Street Shark back for 30th anniversary, and there was a really fun stop motion animated short that made me go after I thought because Jordan, while he was away, he watched the newest Turtle movie. Um,
Yes, I did.
and it
On the
got
plane.
yeah, it got me thinking. Um, I want to bring Street Sharks back. I want to bring Street Sharks. I want to bring Street Sharks back. But I want to kind of do it like directly inverse to the Turtles because the Turtles have kind of gone from like being known as this child friendly thing. When it wasn't, it started off as this R-rated, dark, bleak comic book, and it became this child-friendly thing in Mutant Mayhem, which is largely a movie for children. I thought that movie was good. I thought it was funny, but it is largely a movie directed and made at children. I saw the trailer for their show. Now that you've seen the movie, I'm almost tempted to show you the trailer for the new show because it just looks like it's by way of Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which I also didn't like. But I want to do bring back Street Sharks and do it directly inverse to that. I don't want to make it hard R-rated, like just crazy R-rated, because that thing started off as just a blatant shell to sell toys to kids. I want to like make it R-rated and bloody and violent and like the street sharks, like they eat guys and like tear them in half and like rip them apart, and it's super like aggro and aggressive and like hyper masculine, and it's just about murdering bad guys.
I mean, that sounds very over the top and gratuitous, but I'm down.
Right? Right? I'm like I just want to do like it's the exact opposite of the turtles in like almost every way. I think like we I think we can do it. I think we're in our spot in our pop culture where I think we could probably do it. I would so watch that.
I think we could. I
Um
think we could.
so apparently in Scream 7 news, I'm not sure if you had heard. I mean, I don't know if you keep up with Scream news, but
No, no, not really.
no, in the last Scream movie, the main you've seen them, some of them, right? I think, right? I feel like
I'm not sure.
if I said the name Sydney Prescott, would that mean anything?
Not offhand.
Okay, she's the main character essentially of the first like 3 to 4 Scream movies. She came back for the fifth one, which was a like all the Scream movies very generally are parodies of slasher flicks, and so
Is that the one where it's Ghostface?
yeah, Ghostface. I feel like you've seen
I,
it.
I I think I've seen at least a few.
I feel like you've seen at least the first three. I feel like. I feel like I came out here and you were watching at least you were watching the first one once. I feel like. I don't remember. Anyway, not the
It's
point.
it's a horror movie. I can pretty much guess the details.
But when they like, you know how every franchise came back and did like a requel.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this was the parody of a requel. The fifth one came back and it was a parody of requels. So it was like it's got a new cast. It's got new people, but there's got the legacy characters. That movie drove me crazy because it fucked up requels. Like it was like they were like, "Oh, you're a legacy character, you're safe." No, legacy characters are not safe in a requel. I cannot stress that enough. Because that's the point. You need to prove that the new bad guy is a big deal, and you do that by killing a legacy character. It's a fast way to establish that. So, like for example, in The Force Awakens, which is a very great example of requel. Spoiler alert if you haven't seen The Force Awakens. Han Solo dies. He's a legacy character. It's to demonstrate the ruthlessness and the brutality of the new bad guy. And so it's like, no, a legacy character is not safe. And so anyway, so they made Scream 6, and Neve Campbell, the woman who plays Sidney Prescott, the main girl, didn't want to come back because she wasn't being paid enough money. She didn't feel she was being paid enough money. And so she didn't come back for the sixth one. She wasn't in the sixth one. And in my opinion, you barely noticed she was gone. But everyone was like, oh, they need to bring Sydney back, bring Sydney back. Anyway, the new main girl, she was let go of the seventh one because of opinions she had about a certain conflict in a certain place in the world we're not going to bring up. So she got let go. And they were all and then the other girl, who was one of the new girls, didn't come back because she said it was scheduling conflicts, but people thought that it was like solidarity or whatever. All that to say, all that background to say that they announced that Neve Campbell. I don't know why I want to call her Neve Campbell. They announced that Neve Campbell is going to come back to Screen 7, proving that there was the correct amount of money that they would have said to bring her back. And they finally said the correct amount. And it's like whenever anyone's like, oh man, she has such morals and she supports Melissa Barrera, I think is what her name is. No, apparently there is a correct amount of money to make a person compromise their morals.
There always is.
I'd be curious to know how much money caused her to compromise her morals.
Enough money.
It was clearly enough money. I haven't seen season 6 of Black Mirror, but they announced that season 7 is coming, and that they're gonna do a USS Callister sequel, which it was the only reason why I kept it, because that actually interests me. I think it might be the first time Black Mirror has done a sequel. I think a direct sequel, and I'm interested to see how they follow that one up.
Which episode was that?
That's the one where it's Star Trek.
Oh yeah. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I'm like, is he gonna come back for revenge? Like, how does that work? Because didn't they delete his like world at the end of it? They went to the internet.
I think so.
They haven't said who's coming back for it, just that they're doing it.
Interesting.
Yeah, I remember he
Hmm.
like dies at the end of it. So it was. I remember that one being pretty final. Does it feel like there's a lot of ambiguity to the ending?
Yeah, I don't specifically remember how that ends,
I'd like to watch season
but
6, but unfortunately, I don't have Netflix and I refuse to get it. So unless someone wants to pay me to get it, in which case I will get
mm,
it. But
if a sponsorship wants to help fund Netflix,
otherwise, I refuse to pay for it. Um,
yo ho, yo ho.
so Nintendo announced that they're they're making a new movie set in the Super Mario Brothers world with Illumination at some point in the future, and that it's coming.
I mean, yeah, I felt like that was a pretty foregone conclusion.
Now, they have officially announced it. They're not saying what the movie is, though. I'm guessing it's probably going to be that Donkey Kong spinoff.
I mean, that makes nothing but sense. They've already got the character
I
models.
mean, not even just that. I mean, they already announced the Donkey Kong spinoff, so it wouldn't surprise me unless it's a totally new thing. But yeah, they right after the first one came out, they were like, yeah, we're doing that Donkey Kong spinoff.
Or
So
a Luigi's Mansion movie. That I would
I
be okay
I
with
would
too.
much prefer a Luigi's Mansion movie myself.
Yep.
I like Seth Rogen's Donkey Kong. I just don't know I could do an entire movie of him. I like Charlie Day and Luigi way more. But that having been said, I don't know. It'd be fun to watch him fight King K. Rool. That'd also be kind of fun. Um, they're making a Watch Dogs movie apparently.
A watch_dogs.
Yeah, and I'm like, all right.
Uh, all right.
That's one of
Sure.
those times I don't understand it because it feels redundant. Because like the game's already basically a movie, so what's the point?
That one's more of a GTA clone. It's not. That one's less of a movie than like Beyond Two Souls, for example.
Yeah, no, but I mean it's more cinematic than like movies like that. That's like when they did Assassin's Creed, where it's like if I wanted to experience the story of that game, I would. A movie is not the way I would do it. I would just play the game.
It depends on what the story is.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It feels like it has the chance to be like the Assassin's Creed movie, like generic and a nothing of a movie. Like there's no identity to it. But that's just me.
I mean, you're probably right, but until I see a trailer, I can't make judgment.
Um, James Gunn apparently wants to work with the Flash's Grant Gustin in the DCU,
I
which
saw that.
has led a lot of people um, to ask who should he play. And I saw someone say the Reverse Flash, and I'm like, I think that's a good idea. But
I
here's
I
how I
said
would do
that.
it. No, you didn't
I
say
said
that.
that. Yeah, I did. I said the only way that I would want him to come back is if he was coming back as the Reverse Flash, because that would make him like he could be something very drastically different. And you were like, "Ooh, that's a good idea." Yeah, I definitely said that.
I have no recollection of that. But the only way I would do it is I would have it where he shows up and he's dressed as the Flash, and you think he's the Flash at first, and he takes off the costume and he's the Reverse Flash. I would do a straight up twist of like, do you think you're like, oh, is he gonna be the Flash again? Oh no, he's the Reverse Flash, and then make him like the most evil version of the Reverse Flash. Like have him do a murder. Just have him just do a murder on screen, and don't shy away from it.
Either that, or you have it be a Justice League versus the Injustice League, and he's the whatever the Zoom or whatever the evil version of the Flash that universe is.
That would also be fun. But the point is, I mean, maybe he doesn't want to come back and be a version of the Flash, though. But screw him. That's what I want. I'm kidding.
And what I want is the most important thing ever.
Um, so, Inside Out 2. The trailer came out. This is one of those stories that we missed while we were away. The Inside Out 2 trailer came out, and it looks fun. It's interesting that it looks like the new emotions are like the antagonists. Everyone keeps saying bad guys, and I don't like that word because that phrase because no, they're all part of the same person. No, they're not they're not bad guys. They're antagonists. It's different. You can have an antagonist who's not a bad guy. Anyway, not the point. It looks fun. It's weird because
I mean, they would be the bad guy in the same way that Happy or Joy or whatever was the bad guy in the first one.
yeah, it's just the main antagonist of the plot. But my thing like maybe it's just because it's the trailer. Who knows? Maybe in the final movie it'll be different. Like maybe you'll find out that the parents do have these emotions. But I don't know. I find the implication that because when this was announced, people were like, oh, How come you don't see those emotions in the parent's head? Like if they're emotions you develop as you get older, how come you don't see them? How come you just see the main five ones? And then my answer to that was very cynical because they didn't know they were making a sequel and they didn't think that out. In the second one, we'll probably see that they do, but it shows the parents' emotions and they don't. So is the implication that you get over like anxiety and ennui and embarrassment? Because I gotta tell you, as an adult, I still very much get embarrassed.
My interpretation, which I don't know if they'll go this way, but what I'm kind of hoping they do is that those emotions get absorbed back into joy, like they're manifestations of the main emotions, if that makes
Maybe.
any sense. And then at the end of the movie, like once Riley grows more, they get absorbed back into those and become part of like ennui is part of disgust or whatever, like they each
Yeah.
get absorbed back
Well,
into it.
I saw someone say that maybe it's like the parents are suppressing them, and part of the movie is going to be like learning, like the adults need to learn not to suppress those emotions as well, and they
Yeah,
shouldn't
that
suppress emotions. I'm like, okay,
that would be.
that does make sense because yeah, again, adults very much feel anxiety and embarrassment, and ennui is
Or
such a nebulous concept. I don't understand why they turn. That's not really an emotion. It's like a state of
like
being.
what I would kind of want is like maybe like for example, we have a scene with the mom where like she takes like an anti-anxiety pill and like it wears off and it starts reappearing in her head,
Oh,
and
maybe.
then her emotions are like, oh no, we have to deal with it, and so then they make her take the, and then it
Yeah.
disappears
It could be a
again.
thing of yeah, the movie's about learning to like deal with those emotions, not letting them,
Run rampant.
as I'm saying, take over, um, and learning to live with them, not necessarily bury them. Yeah, that's probably what the movie's about. Now that I'm saying it out loud, but yeah, it looks fun. I mean, I really like the first one, and this is exactly what I wanted. I wanted to see Riley as a teenager.
Yeah, yeah, it
Um,
looks fun. It looks enjoyable.
Apparently, they're making a live action. Okay, it says the title says Disney's computer animated Bambi remake loses director, and then you go scroll down and it says this person is no longer directing Disney's live action Bambi remake, which tells me it's another Lion King situation.
Boo.
I don't I
Boo.
that okay.
Boo.
In this specific instance, I'm not
Stop,
necessarily
stop calling it live action. The Lion King is not live action. Boo.
I'm not against it in concept though, only because I think Bambi will be far more suited. Because Bambi is more about the inherent realism of the scenario, and that one's
Sure.
really trying to be realistic. So like,
So call it the photorealistic
um,
Disney movie.
yeah,
It's not live action.
that's not as catchy. Um, but that's one where I'm like, you know what? Yeah, you make like none of the characters in that movie emote a whole ton. So it doesn't really work. The one thing I remember about that movie is the first half is fun and whimsical, and the second half is upsetting. That's all I remember about it. It's like hard, striking up like reds and upsetting colors, and it's just less fun of a movie. Um, my question is,
Boo.
do you get to see Bambi's mom get shot in this version?
Yeah.
Like, they're gonna actually make the hunter
We're
a
gonna
bad guy, right? Like he's gonna straight
we're
be a
gonna
villain. There's gonna be a
we're
reason
gonna
why she
we're
gets
gonna
shot.
we're gonna have a real Mufasa situation where we see Bambi interacting with his dead mother.
Of course, because they gotta make it.
They gotta up the stakes somehow. It's modern times. Kids have to be horribly traumatized in the same way that we were, and the only way that you can do it is by showing them a deer corpse.
Yep, clearly.
Plus, this is coming from America, so they want to desensitize the kids to that so that they can get used to gun violence.
Yup, absolutely. Um, yeah, no, the hunter will be a bad guy, and he'll be like anti-environment or something. He'll be like cartoonishly evil, and he'll have a personality, and we will absolutely see his face. Um,
It'll be really on the nose.
um, so in more news that we missed, apparently the Hogwarts Legacy sequel. They're talking about making it a live service game, and I don't want to get too much into that game, other than to say this story is really that meme from SpongeBob, where it's like, how many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man? Like, when will you learn that nobody wants live service video games? Like, I don't understand why this genre continues to limp along. Like,
way
nobody
to
wants
ruin
them.
a
Nobody wants
way to
them.
ru- way to ruin a good game.
Right? It's like it's the number one way to ruin a good game. Or in the case of Suicide Squad, an okay looking game. Um, yeah,
I
apparently
would
they're
have just
making
said, I would have just said, or in terms of the Suicide Squad, a game.
a game. Um, and yeah, they're making a new Friday the 13th movie, which I stand by the fact that if you're gonna do a Friday the 13th remake, cut Jason out, cut him out, and
How?
just do a remake of the first movie, because the first movie doesn't have Jason in it. Did you?
I mean, at that point, why? What's the point?
Because the first one's a genuinely good intense movie, and the twist is actually good, and like you don't. It's like when you're watching it without the knowledge or like without any future knowledge, and you watch it purely for what it is. It's a good movie, like genuinely. It's genuinely tense, genuinely creepy. You don't know who's gonna die. It's not immediately obvious, and the twist is actually good. So I'm saying, do a remake of that. Do a remake of the first Friday the 13th movie. Then if you want to do your Jason shit, do Jason. But like I've always said, they should just do a remake of like just the original one without any Jason in it. But with that,
Or, or, new idea. We let the series die and come up with new ideas.
no, I like Jason. I like Friday the 13th. No, also I saw that they were gonna make. I didn't actually open the article, but it sounded like there's an actress who wants to do Friday the 13th, and she wants to be not Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, and she wants to be Freddy Krueger. And I'm like, how do you do Freddy Krueger as a woman? Because that character's a pedophile. Like I don't that 90%
Well,
of that.
let's not be sexist. Women can be pedophiles too.
I know,
Come
but
on.
not in quite the same way. At least I don't know. I don't know that character works if it's a woman. This is one of those times where I'm like, I don't know why I would want to be Freddy Krueger, but hey, if it's good, it's good. I'm just saying I don't see it. Anyway, with that, we're gonna move into our sponsor section where we're testing out a new sponsor this week that has been given to us. Our friends across the network. We haven't shared this yet because we don't know how it's gonna work out. If it works out,
We're still fine tuning.
yeah, it's still this is a pilot program. But today's episode is sponsored by. Well, first let me ask you a question, Jordan. Today we're going to Japan, okay? Today we're
I
going
wish
to
I
Japan.
was going to Japan.
In multimedia form, we've traveled to Japan. But let's say we had the money and resources to actually go to Japan, but we were like, man, going to Japan's it's just planning it is stressful. You know who
It's
you could,
complicated.
you know who you could contact. You can contact the sponsor of today's episode, Flight Center with Susan. Okay? If you go to the link in our description, you click on it, it'll take you to her website, and she is a travel agent. She is easily one of the best we've ever dealt with. We've dealt with her a few times now.
Just let her know that we sent you.
Absolutely, number one thing, let us know. But let me get through the pitch first, okay? Before we tell it, we get to that part of it. So, she's helped us multiple times. She helped us with this vacation that we just went on. She helped us get there. She did all the planning for that. We went to Disneyland multiple years ago. She set the whole thing up for that. We went to a convention. She does a ton of work. She's very good at it. She will essentially
She does the research.
She does the research. She will do all the work so you don't have to. She will tell you where to go and when to go and how to get there, and she will do all of the work for you. All you have to do is pay her. And also, if you click the link in our description and, like George said, let her know that we sent you, what will happen is when you book with her, if you book above a certain amount, she has an incentivization for you. She will get you a gift card that of your choosing. You could choose the gift card. Find something that works for you. She recently booked with someone. They got, if you're Canadian, a Tim Hortons gift card. She will incentivize you to book with her. And again, she does all the work. Just trust her. Go to the link. Tell her we sent you, because not only does it help her out, it helps us out. It lets her know that we sent you, that we're friends.
And most importantly, it takes the stress off of you.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. It takes all that stress of booking a vacation completely off of your shoulders and puts it squarely onto hers, where it
You
should
just
be.
let her know. You let her know where you want to go, what your budget is. Give her some details, and she'll do the rest.
She will take care of it for you. She will absolutely go that extra mile. She's gone that extra mile for us. So that's Susan at Flight Centers. Click the link in the description below. Again, let her know that we sent you, though. Say that the Spur of the Moment podcast sent you. Or if you want, you can just say Justin and Jordan sent us. That works too. But just let her know that we sent you. That's the important part. Cool. Thanks again, Susan, for sponsoring this episode of the podcast. Jordan, let's move on to Japan. Let's do our travel to Japan. And as always, as is the tradition, we're going to continue the tradition with season 2. Jordan gets to go first. And let's begin, Jordan, with the stuff I'm assuming you have seen. You would like to start there? Oh, no, rapid fire. We got to do rapid fire.
I was going to say,
oh my God. Rapid fire almost got killed off in between seasons. Poor rapid fire. He almost didn't make it. Yes, let's do rapid fire. You can go first with your first one.
Okay, I don't have too many today.
No, I don't either.
I'm gonna start with the series and then I'll do the movie.
If you want to, real quick, because I've got a couple of series that's related to the one I had seen. If you want to just fold it into that, did that make sense? Or fold it in, you know how you're talking about. You're gonna talk. What's your first rapid fire?
My first rapid fire was going to be the original Digimon Adventure.
I was going to say, if you want to fold that into your one you haven't seen and talk about it all together, you're welcome to.
Okay, well then I'm going to fold my other rapid fire, the movie, into Summer Wars.
Okay, because I have rapid fire-esque stuff that I'm going to do the same.
Okay. So then I don't have rapid fire.
Do I have rapid fire?
Unfortunately, what with being away and what with watching a show, like an entire show,
I know.
There was only so many hours in the day.
Yeah, okay, I'll do one, but I'm gonna talk about it more because I didn't. You know what? No, I don't have. You know what? I don't have any rapid fire really because it all kind of connects to my big main topic.
Yeah, same.
And it's just gonna turn into me talking about it early. So let's hold off on. Okay, let's just say we do have rapid fire, but it's gonna be part of the main topic. So let's delve into the first thing you had seen.
That I have seen before.
Yeah, seen, yeah.
Okay, this one is one that's not really related to the other stuff. Rough. It's hey, we were gone for a week. We got to get back into.
I know, got to get those cobwebs out, man. Anyway, sorry.
First one is Origin Spirits of the Past, or as it was called in Japan, silver-haired Agato.
Okay, so I have decided we are going to retain the interview style that we established in the finale. I like that. So, tell me briefly what the plot is. What's it about?
Briefly, plot is we open a movie. It's a beautiful musical number where we see that they are attempting to make trees grow on the moon. Okay. Person inserts gene or whatever. Trees go out of control. Crash land on planet. We jump into the future. We find out that the forest has become sentient. Humanity is struggling to survive. Basically, it was the end of the world. Person from the past gets woken up. Her and this other dude that woke up from the past prior to the movie are trying to basically bring back how Earth was. Our hero Agato is trying to help the forest and stop them from just killing basically everything. So
the good guys want the forest, but the bad guys don't want the forest. Am I getting this right?
Largely, yes.
Yeah, largely, yeah. But the forest is in and of itself neither good nor bad. It's just kind of neutral.
It is alive, so it's not inherently evil. It's not inherently good. It just is.
When did this movie come out?
This movie came out in 2006.
Oh, so it's fairly new.
2006?
Yeah.
That's like 24. That's like 24 years ago.
Relatively speaking, it's relatively new. It's this century.
It's 2000.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. Okay, interesting. So, was it a really popular one?
Like, what would you define as really popular?
Like, is it
It it
mainstream? Would American
I
audiences
mean,
know it?
it premiered in at the Fantastic Fest Film Festival in Austin, Texas.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so okay, it did
Uh
come to America. Does it
oh
have like
yeah.
box office results? Just out of curiosity, did it get a theatrical run? I guess is maybe my question.
Let's see. Uh Running time, country jazz. It's hard to see, hard to say. Soundtrack, reception. I don't see. I don't
No,
see.
interesting. So that tells me that it probably didn't get a theatrical release here. But you watched
It
the
just
dub of
it
it, right?
Yeah, I watched the
You watched
dub.
the dub.
It just says that it was released at the Fantastic Fest Film Festival in Austin, Texas.
Huh. So okay, so it did come to America. Is any of the voice actors that you recognize?
Not me personally,
No,
but
not.
I can read out a couple. The English dubbing actors I'll read. The main character is Christopher Patton.
No, don't recognize him.
Uh, Tula is Carrie Savage.
No.
Pam Dougherty, John Bergmeyer, Christopher Sabat, he's in it.
Oh, really? Sabbath. Oh, interesting. Interesting. So it's okay. So
Uh,
it's like a voice actor. It's not like there's no
Laura Bailey,
celebrities. Oh, okay.
Laura,
Interesting.
Laura, Laura
Interesting.
Bailey's in it.
Interesting. So it does have some people we know.
Other than that, I don't recognize really.
So is it like a super? Is it like an
What's
action heavy
What's
thing?
weird is it's got character names here on this list of cast, which I don't recognize, and it doesn't have an English dubbing actor, which tells me that they were cut from the English version.
Interesting. Um, so is it like a super action oriented kind of
Yeah, fairly action heavy.
action heavy?
There's like basically the main character at a certain point. One of the concepts that they introduce in the movie is that and this is why it's called Silver Haired Agato, is the main character's name is Agato, and basically the forest. If you sync up your like if you go down into the forest and talk to the druids and stuff that are down there,
Mm-hmm.
um, uh, they they have the ability to give humans essentially superpowers.
Gotcha.
Um, so the city where our main character grew up, Neutral City, kind of is the in between city between the big war military city and the forest,
Mm-hmm.
and it's the thing that's like keeping the relative peace between the two. And the three people that made the neutral city, Agato's dad and two other characters, they all have silver hair, and you find out that that is the case because the forest essentially gave them superpowers.
Gotcha.
So they have super strength, super speed, super yada yada yada. And so when the character from the past, Tulia, I think that's her name, goes off to help basically make the planet be what it once was. Agito goes down into the forest and is like, please, like, give me the strength to save the forest and to save Tulia, and I can do it all, and yada yada yada. And they're like, okay, be one with the forest. And then he has silver hair and he has superpowers.
Interesting. Interesting. So okay. Um. Let's see. I think I got anything else I had to. I wanted to say.
Obviously, that's the abridged version.
Yeah. Is there anything like super weird or like out there about it, or is it just a fairly
I
like?
mean, I I don't know if you would call it super weird, but you know me, I when I say like I'm not a big I like my music to be in English.
Yeah.
So when I say that first scene has a song which is in Japanese, that I love that opening scene. I've showed you that opening scene before.
Yeah.
Um like I have specifically that this movie is otherwise just okay.
Fair enough.
That opening scene is what I like about this movie.
Interesting. Was there anything else? I remembered one rapid fire I had. But is there anything else you had to say about Spirit's Origin of the Past? We're gonna take a break of the for just a second.
Um I like it, and I like
Anything?
that first song. And anybody who you don't have to watch the movie, just go to YouTube and type in "Origin Spirits of the Past" opening scene.
So
Just watch that.
so
That's all you really need to
is it a
see.
musical or is it just the one opening number?
Nope, It's just that one opening number, and then later on in the movie,
Huh.
when there's this big emotional moment near the
Yeah.
end of the movie, it plays that song again.
Huh. Interesting. So, okay. Well, so that was Spirit's Origins of the Past. Is it on anything that people can watch, Jordan?
The name of the song, which assuming that the sound, the I don't know what you want to call it, soundtrack. That's the word I'm looking for. Assuming this is in order of what the movie is, the name of the song, or what it is in the movie rather, name of the song should be Mori no Kyoku.
Okay. Good to know. Good stuff. Have to check that out. Um, to go back to rapid fire, just real quick. I remembered that I wanted to talk about because it's unrelated to any of the stuff that I was going to talk about. Um, I watched one Dragon Ball movie. Because I was gonna watch a bunch because obviously Akira Toriyama, but they were hard to find and I was running out of time, so I was only able to watch one. So I watched the very first one, my favorite Dragon Ball movie, Dead Zone. But I didn't watch the Funimation version of Dead Zone, Jordan. You never guess what version of Dead Zone I watched.
Blue Water,
No,
Blue
no.
Ocean,
Ocean Group. I watched the Ocean Group dub.
Ocean Group,
And
Ocean.
that movie is kind of incredible because it's the closest to it has the Japanese soundtrack. The dialogue is very close to the original Japanese. It has musical numbers. Like I remember the one where Gohan gets drunk and he sings. Like
Oh
I
yeah.
can still sing part. I've watched that movie so many times. Like I can visualize music cues. Like when Krillin runs up the stairs and Piccolo walks up and it's like dun 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 dun. And
Uh,
there's yeah, and then there's the or it's so funny because I've the version of it I watched didn't have any subtitles on it, so it didn't have subtitles on it for the songs. But when we watched it as kids, the version of it that was on the VHS tape that I owned, had lyrics, and so there's a point where it goes, but where the song goes da na na da na na, and I still remember the lyrics in Japanese go, I feel good, really good. I feel really. I remember that, but yeah, it's wild. Like there's cursing in it. It's way more violent, and surprisingly, the animation is phenomenal. Like the budget is really there. Like that sequence where they were trying to slice and dice Goku with the swords, and he's just like dodging past them. It looks so clean and so smooth. And it looks better than a lot of the stuff on the show because obviously it has a quite a larger budget. And it's funny because people who think that they grew up with Sean Schimmel and Chris Sabat, they didn't. Most people don't realize that they grew up with the Ocean dub, and that Goku and Vegeta and Piccolo were all voice matched to them. And so the guy who does Piccolo, Scott McNeil, he sounds just like Chris Sabat's Piccolo. Like it sounds almost exactly the same. Only a few characters really sound like drastically different, and that's Master Roshi and Bulma. But like Krillin and Chi-Chi, like they more or less sound like they do in the Funimation dub. It's really quite interesting because they were the first guys to own the dub. Like that, and eventually Funimation bought it out. That's why Funimation now owns the rights to it. But for the longest time, it was Ocean Group.
Interesting.
Yeah.
A fascinating bit of trivia.
Yeah, and so a lot of people think they grew up with Sean Schimmel, but in fact, most of you, we did, grew up with an actor called Peter Kalamis. And yeah, that's the version of Goku you think you know. And that's
Apparently, Sean Schimmel's a dick, anyways.
yeah, apparently he's a huge dick. But anyway, yeah, that's my one rapid fire. It's not related to it's funny, I do have a rapid fire, but it's actually related to one of yours. And it was one that I hadn't seen, but I don't have anyway, we'll get there. So with that, what is your second had seen?
Well, my second have seen, I'm gonna have to preface it with one of my rapid fires, because one of my rapid fires was essentially the prototype version of this movie. So one of my rapid fires was going to be, I watched the Digimon the movie, like the American version, where it's three different short movies smushed in which, as watching it as an adult, it definitely feels like Frankenstein
Oh, for
together.
sure. Well, I mean, I will say that the
Way more than it did as a kid.
Yes, absolutely. The thing I will say about the Frankensteining of it, the first two segments feel less Frankenstein together because that first segment, like even though the animation is very different, they're very different from each other. Um, they at least go like, oh, it's a prequel. So you're kind of
Yeah,
it's a sorry, not prequel, a prologue. It's a prologue. So your brain
yeah.
doesn't quite
So your brain can kind of be like, oh, well, this is the filter of the past. That's why it looks different.
yeah. Whereas the second and third one have nothing to do with each other, like at all. I'm assuming you read about the third one.
I kind of just remember you telling me about it from the past,
Yeah,
but
no, it's yeah, it's why like the other Digidestin, you know that scene where they all get turned back into kids?
yeah,
The other Digidestin are there,
yeah,
and
yeah.
they also get turned into kids.
Um, but the part that I wanted to focus on because it's the most relevant to what my actual pick is the second part, which is the part where either like they're fighting Diaboromon on the internet,
Oh yeah,
um,
yeah. The best part, you mean, with
which
Omnimon?
which yeah, yeah, which I believe in the original version is called Our War Game.
It is called Our War Game.
Um,
Yeah.
but that part, uh, so that leads okay, yeah, that leads me into what my pick is, which is made by the same director that directed that short film,
He directed all of
which is
them.
called
He directed
which is
he
called which is called Summer Wars.
Yeah, he actually directed all three of the segments of it. He directed all three of those movies. So it's all the same guy.
All right, but that's the important part is the middle one.
Yeah,
That's the
the
one that we're
plot is similar to the middle one, but they're all made by the same guy.
no. The plot of Summer Wars is the middle one.
It is the
It
middle
is the
one.
same. It is the same plot. The director himself has went on record saying Summer Wars is just an extended version of that
Yeah, he
movie.
basically said it was a remake, essentially.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like it is the full version, like what it was always meant to be,
It's
without being held back and hamstrung by having Digimon in it.
yeah, yeah. What's funny is you could make a feature length version of the Digimon version. I mean, they technically
And
did, I suppose.
it's also just fascinating because, well, it's also just fascinating because when you watch them back to back, the technology levels of like where they were in the one versus the
Right?
other, where it's like, you know, the novelty of the Digimon movie was that it was like, oh yeah, they're talking on the internet to each other, like that was weird back then,
Right?
um, and Summer Wars was very much about like the connectivity between stupid thing, the connectivity between people.
It's also
But
funny.
sorry, my second one was Summer Wars, and you said this is an interview,
Yeah.
so
Well, what's funny about Japan and the Digimon that Our War game is like how Japan always thinks technology is going to go in a different direction than it does because they very clearly thought satellite uplink was going to be the next evolution of the internet, and it wasn't. It was
right.
cable internet. They didn't see cable internet as being a thing. And yeah, I think in that movie they used dial up at a point to connect to the internet, which is really funny.
Yeah, it wasn't quite dial up because I believe no, it was dial up because like if he goes after our phone, then we're like we're disconnected, and then they get disconnected, and that's when he goes gets the satellite uplink.
Yeah. Well, for the benefit of people who maybe haven't seen Summer Wars, because it's a relatively obscure movie for a lot of people. A lot of people haven't seen it. Very quickly and as concisely as you can, what is the very basic plot of Summer Wars? Because also don't give away too much because this is one that people should genuinely watch. Like of all of these. This is gonna get I haven't seen that the other one that he'd seen, so it's gonna get a single Jordan seal of approval. But this is a double stamp Justin Jordan seal of approval. More people need to have
Absolutely.
seen this movie. Like, removed from the fact that it's an anime, like, it's just a genuinely good movie. It's also a really interesting reflection on just okay. Very brief summary, and then I'll get into my other questions.
Very brief summary. 11th grade student, timid 11th grade math genius student, gets hired by 12th grade student to go with her on a family trip thing, so that yada yada yada, details. And then there's a rogue AI who causes trouble on this very important social media
The
thing.
mysterious AI whose origin is unknown, who we won't say who they are, who it comes from because that gives away part of the movie. But yeah, it's a really fun on the internet drama, like it's action kind
Basically,
of movie and a
basically,
family
if
drama.
basically if you've seen the Digimon movie and you've seen that second section, it's that.
You get the gist.
That's
Yeah,
what that's
there's
what this
there's an
is.
evil virus and those guys got to fight it with monster looking
And
bunny
it
looking
and it
things.
had and it maybe has its own version of digivolving.
Yeah, and the like I said, the animation is beautiful. It's stunning.
Oh, it's
But
gorgeous.
would you say? Here's my first question. Would you say that it is also a reflection? It's always funny to me. Would you say it's a reflection on Japanese culture? Like, did you find there's some stuff in that movie culturally where you're like, this is kind of silly, especially with the
Yeah,
interfamily stuff.
I was gonna say the amount of importance on old family and old like yeah, that definitely felt like cultural because my I don't have a gigantic family that comes together like that and does stuff like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Um, um, what else? Just yeah, it's hard to put into words exactly, but when the one kid is like with his fighting on the computer or whatever, when he's like it's not a game, it's a sport.
Yeah.
Sport a game is about something you don't care about or whatever. That feels very like karate, like uh
Yeah.
like I- sports, Japanese, serious.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do get what you. Yeah, that was my thing where it was like the idea of a matriarchy, and you all answered. That's a very like East Asian concept that it's like as a North American just doesn't resonate with me. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, I will say though, it does. There are elements of it that do get kind of emotional, and like it's a good
Oh,
and it's
it's
very
very
fun.
cute.
It's very
Very,
fun.
very cute.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and yeah, it's like I can say the animation is tight. Is there anything about it that you felt like that like how besides the plot were there other elements from Digimon that maybe it borrowed that you were like aesthetically maybe?
Uh, I mean, it's hard to without giving away too many details. Um, yeah, the fact that the
Or here's what we'll do. Here's what we'll do. Um, we're gonna talk spoilers now. Okay, go watch Summer Wars. Come back. You can skip ahead. I haven't figured out time codes yet. One of these days I will. But come back or skip ahead if you'd like. We're gonna talk some spoilers about Summer Wars. It's a good movie. Double stamp of approval. Okay, Jordan. Um, drop some spoilers on me.
Okay, the chains are off. When Love Machine, the fact that he goes from being like the single form where he's got the one avatar, and as he gets more avatars, he gets bigger until he gets to the point where it's at the end of the movie, and he's got the millions of avatars, and he's the giant like, and he's got the bunny ears,
Yeah,
he's the gigantic. I mean, that's just Diaboromon digivolving from champion to mega to like to the different stages. Like
absolutely, absolutely.
that's absolutely borrowing from that. When the main girl when they're doing the card game at the end, and Yoko and John give her, which yes, that is absolutely a Beatles reference. Um, when they give her the power up and she does the Sailor Moon transformation and has that's also just her digivolving.
I mean
Um,
the kid's avatar is just Terriermon.
I mean, he's certainly a bunny that fights and kicks ass. That when he's fighting against Love Machine like that, yeah, no, that absolutely just feels like a Digimon fight. Like, yeah,
Absolutely
the
does.
the, the action scenes feel like the scenes from the Digimon movie. Like it just
Um,
does,
so I
which is not a
wanna
bad thing.
I
It's
have
just it.
I have a rapid fire to tag on to this, so I'm gonna wrap up Summer Wars for you, unless you've got anything interesting or noteworthy that you want to drop about it.
Uh, Not that. Let me just scroll through and see if anything interesting pops up. Uh, uh, Apparently it was aired on Adult Swim's Toonami block.
That makes sense. Yeah, that's perfect for that block. It's a nice. It's a PG. It's a bit PG-13. It's not super G-rated. It does get a bit PG-13 or PG.
It, I mean, here's the last thing that I guess I'll I'll say about it. Anybody who's on the fence and is like, I don't know, and again, you don't for some reason, even though you listen to me and Justin talk for hours on end, you don't trust our judgment. Um, it got a 78% on Rotten Tomatoes, and an average of 7.1 out of 10 for reviewing.
It's a good movie. It's a fun movie.
It's a
And
good
so
movie.
I watched and this was gonna be my main haven't seen pick, but I just don't have a ton to say about it enough to really make a thing of it. But I watched The Girl Who Leapt Through Time, which is also directed by the guy who directed Summer Wars and Digimon and all that, and made by the same. It came out like the same year, and it's made by the same animation studio. And it just was kind of the it's a time loop movie where a girl discovers she can literally leap through time, and she discovers she has a set amount of time leaps, and she keeps redoing the day over and over and over again. And there's a twist midway about one of her classmates, and I didn't find any of it terribly engaging. It also doesn't explain the mechanics, and like what she does is like a lot of like high school drama stuff, and it just wasn't doing anything for me. The only thing that was interesting of it, what for me was, I noticed how this guy really likes blank white spaces with vaguely science fictiony looking things strewing across it. Like that's what it looks like in Summer Wars. The internet world looks like that. That's what it looked like in our war game. And in this movie, when she time travels, it's like just this blank white empty space with like clocks and shit in the background, and it just looks like the internet world from Summer Wars.
That's funny.
Like
That's funny.
he just loves this aesthetic. But I don't know. I found even the interpersonal stuff in Summer Wars was way more engaging for me than this was. It was not engaging for me. And maybe it's one of those things where maybe I'll come back to it another time. I'll rewatch it because I like Summer Wars, and maybe I'll find something I like about it. But it just didn't do anything for me.
I've watched it once and it's been years and I remember liking it, but I don't remember enough about it to really say
Yeah, it was okay. I,
what,
I
you
I
know.
I didn't hate it. It just wasn't. It didn't resonate with me in any sense.
It was fine.
Not in the same way I watched. I don't even remember what made me watch Summer Wars. I think I saw a clip of it on the internet once or something. But I put it on a lark, and it was one of the. I was like, it blew me away the first time I watched it. So
Yeah, you recommended it to me. That's why I watched it.
that's the stuff you hadn't you have seen. Except we're gonna move into the stuff you hadn't seen. Which Jordan, you only watched one thing you hadn't seen, right?
No, no, I've watched two.
Oh, you have a second one.
Yep.
Okay, so do the.
We're gonna start with the smaller one, which is not Digimon.
Okay, go for it.
The smaller one is called Your Name.
Oh, okay, I've never heard of it.
Um, so I'm go- I'll give a fast like a
Yeah,
quick
fast.
run a quick run through. Basically, movie starts and one of the characters is a girl who wakes up and appears to be confused and is not aware that she is a girl and is like very confused, gets up. So as the movie goes on, we find out that the main girl and the main girl lives in this like in the boonies city in Japan, like or in somewhere in Japan, not city, town, very small town, and the guy character lives in I want to say Shibuya. Yeah, girl is in a rural town of Itomori, and the boy is from Tokyo.
Gotcha.
And they keep swapping bodies, where she'll wake up as him and he'll wake up as her, and they'll go through their days or whatever, and then they wake up and like as if they had been in a dream. They then don't remember any of it.
Gotcha.
Um, but the people around them are picking up on the fact that they're like, okay, you've been at like for example, the guy all of a sudden is starting like showing very feminine traits, and so one of his female coworkers really likes him when he's her.
Oh,
Um, and he, like him as her, like he's been acting differently when he's her, and so like all the people around them are like picking up on the fact that they're acting differently, and so then over the course of the movie they start then like making notes in each other's phones of everything that they've done while they are them. So they're like
interesting.
basically like don't fuck up my life basically.
Interesting.
And over the course of the movie, they obviously, when you're living in someone else's body, you start to develop a bond with them.
Yeah.
And so at a certain point in the movie, the main guy, like, it just stops. Like, and he can't remember like a lot of the details of who she is, but he sketches out like a picture of like what he knows of her town, and then with like the girl that he went on a date with, because she and his body got a date with her, and then he went on the date, and when he was on the date with his coworker friend, like his coworker, she's like, you seem different than when you asked me out, and like didn't actually like him but liked her as him, and it's this whole thing. But he ends up going to the countryside to try and find the girl that he's been swapping bodies with, and he goes there, and basically you end up finding out that it's destroyed. A comet hit it 3 years ago,
Or
and so
she's been
he's
dead
been
the whole
going it.
time.
She's been dead this whole time.
Oh.
Um, and he's actually been jumping, like they've been swapping bodies, but she's 3 years in the past, and
Oh.
he's in the present, and so you end up finding out like at a certain point in the movie that she tried to go and find him, and went to Tokyo to try and find him, and found him, but it was 3 years before he met her, so he didn't know her, and so he ends up with this hairband that she has. He ends up with it, and throughout the entire course of the movie, you've seen it wrapped around his arm, and he's like, like it's been implied that he got it from someone special, but he couldn't remember who, and it was her.
Oh snap.
And so then basically he gets put into her body like one last time, and he tries to evacuate the town and tries to get everyone out, and they end up going to this one location where at the perfect magic hour of sunset, um through the 3 year time, they're talking to each other, in each other, like at first in each other's body, and then they're in their own bodies, and then he's all like, we'll write each other's names on our hands, so we'll remember each other's names once we separate again. And he writes his on hers, and she just starts to write his on hers on his, and disappears. And he's like, "What's your name? What's your name?" And it's like this whole thing. And then we're kind of left like it appears like she got out, like she managed to get her and her family and most of the town out of the town, but she doesn't remember his name, and he doesn't remember her name, and you're like, but they have to, they gotta end up together. Come on.
So.
And so then sorry.
Oh no, no, go finish up.
I'm coming near the end of it here. And so then it ends up with this time jump where it's like 5 years later or something like that, and it's him and the female coworker who are talking to each other, and he's like, I feel like there's this important person, this important name that I've forgotten. That's why I was really obsessed with that countryside for a while, but it kind of just faded into obscurity, and like kind of like it goes on a little bit, and then they had the girl, that like the people that had been swapping bodies end up passing each other, and they're like, do I recognize this person? And he turns around and he's like, do I know you? And she's crying, she has tears in her eyes, and she's like, I think I was thinking the same thing too. I think I know you too. My name is da 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 da, and they introduce each other, and it's like, it looks like they ended up together. It's so cute.
So okay, so how new is this movie?
This movie came out in 2016.
Oh wow, so it's pretty new. So what made you select it?
I picked a list of anime movies, and this was on it.
Oh, interesting. So it's just a random choice.
Yep,
What did you download it or did you watch it on something?
I downloaded
You
it.
downloaded it. Interesting.
Even though annoyingly, Google said that Amazon Prime had it,
Oh, it does
but
that
it
all
did
the
it,
fucking time. It's
but
so
what
annoying.
but what it didn't tell me was that, yeah, sure, it has it if you have Crunchyroll. It's apparently on Crunchyroll,
Yeah,
and you can get it through. I hate it when it does shit like
I know. It's
that.
so fucking annoying. So so this was a theatrical movie? It went to theaters?
Uh,
You watched it dubbed, so it obviously came out internationally.
Oh yeah, it premiered at the 2016 Anime Expo in Los Angeles
Interesting.
on July 3rd, 2016, and was theatrically released in Japan on August 26th,
Is
2016.
the
Was
animation
released animation direction by Masashi Ando.
is it pretty animation, or is it like cheap looking?
Oh yeah. No, I think it looks very pretty.
Like Girl Who Leapt Through Time is very fucking cheap looking. Like that's one thing I noticed.
Apparently,
So many characters without faces say dialogue in that movie. Like they just don't have a face. It's super weird.
apparently it became the third highest grossing Japanese film of all time.
Really?
Yep,
That's clearly
according to
been
this.
decimated by now, surely. Because there's no way that
I
Godzilla
mean,
minus one isn't
I'm
the highest grossing
I'm
Japanese
sure,
movie of all
yeah,
time.
I'm sure it has since been surpassed, but
Um,
at the time, it had a budget of 750 million yen, and it had a box office of 382.2 million.
well, so it did all right. It did all right. So let's talk about Digimon, Jordan.
Sure. Let me just close that.
Unless you have anything else to say about that
So,
movie.
no, I mean it's cute. It's I don't know that you would have loved it, but I had a good time with it.
We're gonna do this in a more because it's a TV show. We're gonna
So,
so number
what
one, just what's the difference? What are the differences between the
Oh,
two shows?
I feel like we have to say what the last thing is.
Oh,
The last pick is the 2020 version of Digimon Adventure.
I mean, if the
Now, now you may ask your questions.
if you watching the Digimon movie wasn't enough of a hint. All right. So what's the main difference between the two? Where okay, I should say for how long does it remain the same, and when does it start to differ?
See, now that's a tough question to answer because truthfully, it's different. It's both different and the same from the beginning. So there's definitely like and you're gonna have to forgive me because I watched this over the course of a week, and so some of the details from the beginning are starting to fade already. But um, it kind of starts with like Izzy and Ty, and Ty ends up he's the first one that ends up in the the so in this one. It's important to distinguish that there's the digital world and then there's the in between world, which is basically like the internet. Like
Right.
that's what I would describe it as. So first, Ty ends up in what is essentially the internet, and that's where he runs into Koromon, and they fight against the thing like the Digimon that are there. Um, so I mean, right from the beginning, that's entirely different than the original
Right.
where they're all together at camp and they all go to the digital world together and they don't leave until like what the 30th episode or something. They don't go back to the real world.
Yeah.
Like
More than half of
they
the
spend
season. Yeah.
a lot of time trapped in the digital world, and it's kind of a big thing. Whereas in this one, like he's in it for a little bit and then he's back, and then they like most of them go to the digital world, but they're not all together. He kind of they meet up in the digital world over the course of it. So like there's a lot that's different, but there's also like within those first few episodes, um, it's another homage to the our war game, where it's like it's essentially that part of the movie is a good is one of the episodes,
Yeah. It's literally
to the point
the name of the
to
episode
the
is
point
literally
where
just
they
Our
have
War Game.
Omnimon. Yeah,
Yeah.
like it is a direct reference to it.
Yeah.
Um, so there's a lot that's different.
Yeah. Not even just that
But
Omnimon. The name of the episode is literally just called. I think it's called Our War Game 2. I think is what it's
oh
called.
yeah,
Yeah.
oh that's funny. So yeah, there's a lot that's different, and but it also for all the things that are different, it still kind of follows the outline
Well,
in
okay. So
some
like
ways.
they
So ask me some more questions here.
So like okay, so I know that a point that they fight Devimon. Is that structure similar to the original? Like where it's like
Uh,
they you know they each basically like the first season of the first show it starts like they each episode is a different Digimon digivolving, and they each fight one of Devimon's minions, eventually leading up to the end where they all fight Devimon and then they beat Devimon. Like is that sort of a similar
yeah,
sort of
it is a similar, like, it is a similar outline, and that's where I
And
say,
then Angemon
even
beats
even
Devimon, and
though
then Devimon dies.
he's kind of, except Devamon in this one is kind of different. Um, so, and this leads me to a point that I wanted to make about this show, which is that um, it gives depth to things that the original didn't, and it also bypasses annoying story plots that I never liked. Um, so okay, for example, the thing that's different about Devamon in this version, he is created because of Angemon. Basically, um, Cold Notes version. In this version, before our characters even come into it, many years ago, there was a war where all the angel Digimon basically fought against the forces of darkness, which included a Digimon called Millennium Mon, who was not a character really in the original show.
No, but he is a
But
character in Digimon.
he is a yeah,
Very important one.
he's a pretty important character in the general Digimon lore.
Yeah.
Um, but when that war was finished, um, essentially Angemon fell into darkness and was trapped. And it was while he was in that darkness where he starts digivolving and stuff. And it was in that darkness, from his own inner darkness, Devamon was born.
Gotcha.
So unlike in the original one where he's just Devimon and he's just there and he's just evil and he just exists, in the new one he comes from Angemon.
Interesting. So, okay, are there no Edamon, right? No Edamon?
Th- There was an episode where there was an Edamon, but he's not strictly speaking a bad guy. He's just a Digimon.
No Myotismon?
No, there is a point where they fight against a marine Myotismon,
Oh, I know him.
but he's not like he's just one of the bad
He's
guys,
not like
like one
as
of the bad
important from
Digimon.
a story perspective.
No, not really.
What about the crest and tags? Is that there?
Uh, there's still a point where they're not tags, but where they go to, essentially after they defeat Devimon, they go to the different points of the place that they're at, or not Edamon, or Devimon. When they defeat Millennium Mon, they go to the different points and they have their own individual things where, like, basically their Digivice or whatever is guiding them towards it. They have their lesson of the day where, like, it's them helping or doing
Yeah.
something or fighting against something, and at the end of it they get the thing that they were going to
Mm.
get, and they go back to the thing where they have all the stone tablets of their symbols, and they light up once they
So
all come back.
the
So
structure.
kind
So
of.
the structure of the original Digimon, as I see it, is
The big difference, sorry, real quick. The big difference is that these crests, like when they go to get them,
yeah,
it ends up with them digivolving into their mega form,
not their ultimate.
not
Right.
their ultimate.
Interesting. So okay. So because as far as I see it, the original Digimon show, the structure of it went. There's a bunch of episodes. They meet a final boss. There's a bunch of episodes. They fight the final boss. They lose the final boss. They get a power up, and then they fight the final boss again, and then they beat the final boss, and then they introduce a new final boss. Then they get all the power ups. They fight that final boss. Then they beat that final boss. Then they, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
similar. So, like in the first one, how their first boss is Ogremon, who they kind of lose a few bouts against. Same in this one. They fight against Ogremon, they lose against him, then
see,
they lose against the ultimate
so no,
ones
he's just a
till they
boss.
can till,
I
till
like
they till they can till they can get to the ultimate forms. Some of the fight scenes are tight, by the way.
like more
Um,
what I mean is like they leads up to them fighting Devimon, and then they beat Devimon, and then everything leads up to them fighting Edamon, and then they beat Edamon, and everything leads up to them fighting Myotismon, and they beat Myotismon. And you know what I mean? Like that's what I mean. Like
similar similar, but there's less of them. So, like, for example, this one, it would be more like it leads up to them fighting Devamon, but then Devamon has like three forms that they have to fight
gotcha.
against, and so it's like multiple episodes for some of them against fighting him. Then, like, the next one is them working up to stopping the Great Calamity, or that not the Great Calamity, Millennium Mon, keeps trying to get his body back, and then they fight against um uh What did I say?
Millenniummon.
Millenniummon, thank you. Then they fight against Millenniummon. They beat him. Then the next few ones is them leading up to them fighting against the Great Calamity, Great Calamity, which is Negamon, um, which is essentially this show's version of
That's what I
Apocalypse.
was just gonna ask. So there is a version of Apocalypse in this.
Yeah, he's Negamon.
Negamon, interesting.
Like negative?
Because the implication,
Like 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 essentially he's supposed to be the interpretation of like anti-life.
oh, so he's basically the Reaper from season 3.
Pretty much, yeah. Where at a certain point he starts breaking through into the real world, and everywhere he touches, it deletes. And he
Interesting.
starts breaking into the real world, and everything he touches there is also getting deleted.
Because
So yeah, that's where the one thing that I would say about this show is it definitely takes from at least the first three series, like
yeah,
seasons, Digimon Adventure 1, 2, and Tamers.
yeah.
I don't know so much about Frontiers.
It does take some stuff from
Um,
Frontier, like Trailmon, and Trailmon is a pretty.
I, I'm more just meant in terms of story. Like
Oh,
Digimon,
story.
yes, there's definitely
Um,
some like even you remember the one from Frontiers who carries the egg?
yeah, yeah.
He's in like the last episode
Oh,
or a
interesting.
few of him.
The thing it sounds like it takes is the concept of in Digimon Frontiers they had the concept of there is the uh, good Digimon, or there's the human Digimon, and then there's the beast Digimon, and they went to war and they fought each other, and that's got Cherubimon, uh, where he gets his
Yeah,
actual
kind of.
name, and they all fight each other in like a big war or whatever. So it sounds like they borrow that. Um,
Yeah, that definitely. But real quick, one of the things that because I wanna talk about like things that I like about it. Um, I mentioned briefly how it bypasses certain irritating character quirks. So like you remember how in the first one there was always that irritate or in the first one in the original one how there's always that irritating conflict between Matt and Ty and like who's the leader and he's a
yeah,
loner and they don't do that.
good.
They bypass that. Or like you know how in the original you have to deal with that whole Mimi is a spoiled brat and she whines and she complains.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, they don't do that either.
yeah.
They bypass that. Patamon's whole why can't I digivolve? No, no, none of that. He's just straight useful,
Yeah.
and like pleasant. Gatomon, she didn't get kidnapped by Myotismon, so there's none of that. I'm a dark, grungy, bad character who you're gonna have to defeat. No, 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 no. They find her. She's there. She's good. She's useful.
pretty
Um,
immediately. So like yeah, it's
like
like no dark masters or anything.
no Dark Masters. Not really. Anyway, the Dark Master would essentially be Millennium Mon,
Gotcha.
who he's stealing all the data from the human world to basically be able to come back. Like all the bad guys are working for him. So any of the bad guys they fight are either influenced by him or are directly working for him.
Gotcha.
Um, one more thing that I will say, this show breaks the mold on with Digimon series. So you know how Leomon has sort of a track record
Dying?
of being the Sean Bean of Digimon.
He dies. It's his
Doesn't
thing.
he doesn't do that in this one.
What? What?
He survives.
Immediately dislike. Immediately dislike. That's the one
He
thing it's known for.
he survives.
Is it,
He does not die.
oh, does he digivolve into Saber Leomon again?
Nope.
Ah, disappointing. So you get to see
Um.
so you get to see all of the other guys. So it's got like Hercules Gabuterimon and like Vikingmon and
Yep.
Rogemon
Bikemon. Yep. Yep. All of them.
and
Phoenixmon.
Phoenixmon and is it Seraphimon? Does he get Seraphimon?
He gets they. That's one thing that's interesting about Patamon and Gatomon, because they are the quote unquote celestial Digimon and kind of a big deal in this. They have a few Digivolutions, probably the most out of like all of them.
Yeah, I know that the big thing
Cer-
with this one is they all get alternate Digivolutions, and I hated most of them.
Certainly. Well, the nice thing though is that they only use them a handful of times. They use the ones that 90% of the
Good.
time.
'Cause, yeah, I saw the one where it was like a Maraca. It was like the Togemon one where it was like a Maraca, and I hated it. I was like, I
Yeah,
hate it.
she uses that once.
I hated it. Although I didn't hate Agumon had one I didn't hate. I can't remember what it was called, but
Yeah.
it's like a red one or something.
Patamon, for example, he gets the one where he's the Pegasusmon.
Yeah.
He gets Angemon, he gets Magna Angemon, he gets Seraphimon.
Dope.
He gets this one where he's like gigantic, like you know how Gatomon has that one where she turns into the cat or
Yeah, he's
whatever.
got his own version of it.
He's got his own version of
Yeah,
that.
that I knew.
Gatomon has she has less, but she has Angemon, Ophanimon, and that cat one.
Yeah, and not Sphinx Spawn?
Um, no,
Oh, she doesn't get Sphinx Spawn in this one?
no, because the point of why Patamon ends up getting that one is because in terms of the story, he doesn't remember like much of his past.
Gotcha.
And so it's like this whole like I can still digivolve even though I don't really remember how, and then he digivolves into that
Gotcha.
basically. But overall, I mean, it's not bad. I don't like the voices.
No, I mean, everyone's gonna have a complaint about the dub, but the dub is not very good.
Don't like the voices.
Not
I'm
a
pretty
fan.
attached to the original.
Yeah.
But so that's my Digimon adventure.
Is
It's a
it?
show. It's a show, so I could go through like a lot of the minute details, but we don't have all day. So
Here's a question. Here's a question. Last question, and then we'll move on to my stuff. The last question is, does it take a beloved childhood thing and make it aggressively depressing?
no,
Like is it like Digimon Try, where it was just upsetting for no reason?
no, I would say this is more in line with what the spirit and what the energy of the original is.
Interesting. I guess I'll have to check it out then. It's one I want to see.
I have it downloaded still, so it's
Yeah.
easy.
So moving on. That was Jordan's trip to anime in Japan.
Yeah,
I
it
would
was
I
a
would
fun
say
trip.
all your shit was anime. All your shit was anime. It was definitely anime.
I would agree.
So for me, I started off with I went Japanese like, and I don't know if it's anime. My one I had seen, my first one was Advent Children, Final Fantasy VII Advent Children. I picked that, and I also picked up and I started playing Final Fantasy VII, the original Final Fantasy VII, for two reasons. Number one, I've never beat it, and I'm fucking determined. Even after this 2 week special is over, I'm going to continue trying to beat it because I've never beaten it, and it is agonizing. It is an agonizing game to play because it's it's an old ass Japanese RPG, and they are painful.
I have been playing it as well, and the amount of times that I've had to bring up a guide just so I knew where I was going.
Yeah, there's so many times where I have no. There's times where it's like the background. I can't. Oh, I'm supposed to go click on this thing that's in the background, but the background are so dull and muted looking. It's like. It's just it's like the graphics look bad, and it's not the game's fault. The graphics look great back in 1997.
At the time, I'm sure they were awesome, but now it's hard.
And so it's been an experience. I also played it to see the differences with the remake because I would like to finish the remake.
Yeah, me too. I'm gonna have to pick that up.
But yeah, it's such a long, agonizingly long game.
So Advent Children, eh?
Yeah, so I watched Advent Children, and the reason why I play Final Fantasy VII is because I realized as I was watching Advent Children, I knew way less about Final Fantasy VII the first time I watched that movie than I thought I did. Like, I'm pretty sure I watched that movie purely based on the fact that I liked Cloud and Kingdom Hearts and no other reason. Because there's there's so many, and to be fair, this time I watched it's kind of a cheat because I technically watched the Advent Children Complete, which is the director's cut, which I had never seen, which has 26 minutes of additional footage, which go away. There we go.
Okay.
No. So the differences in between it are there's a new opening scene with Kadaj talking to Rufus, asking why humanity even bothers to carry on. Yeah, the Marlene has a opening monologue that goes into way more detail from the original game, explains stuff. Yeah, numerous shots have been added. There's a bunch of shit added with Zack, where they just straight up add in the ending cutscene from Crisis Core. Like it's just the ending cutscene from Crisis Core. There's a bunch of stuff with him. Yeah, there's a flashback showing how Denzel first met Cloud.
Oh, good, because I remember when that movie came out being like, who is this character and why does he look like
Why does
Roxas?
he look like? Yeah, same. There's an extended flashback sequence. Yeah, of extended flashback sequence of Zack, including his death, where he tells Cloud, "You'll." Yeah, that's it. They brought back the "You'll be my living legacy," which was a bit from Crisis Core.
I love
Um,
that scene.
it's so
That is
good.
just objectively a good scene.
There's just a bunch. It's just a bunch of like little shit. Oh yeah, the fight scene between Cloud and Sephiroth is longer. Oh yeah, they've added blood, so it's way bloodier. So there's a bit where like Sephiroth just straight up stabs Cloud and he starts gushing blood, or he slices him up in the face. He starts spurting blood out of his face. It's pretty sweet.
That
Yeah,
sounds pretty metal.
a lot of blood has been added. Oh yeah, during the battle with Sephiroth, Cloud has a vision where he talks to Zack. They show you where the three guys, the bad guys of the movie, they actually show you them appearing for the first time, and they appear as like goo, and they slowly form, and they become human.
Huh.
And
Making me kind of want to watch this.
yeah, it's interesting. It's funny because people are always like, "Oh, he does Omni Slash at the end of the game," but Barrett also does one of his limit breaks. He does
Oh yeah.
his first one, the one where he's just a big energy ball. He does that at when they summon the bit where they're fighting. I think it's Bahamut they're fighting in the city where he
I think
summons
so.
Bahamut. Yeah. He uses it then. I'm like, oh, that's his
Yeah.
limit break. I recognize that.
That's
Um,
funny.
and then there's just certain references to like Tifa or Yuffie being all about materia, which I now get because I'm playing the game.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but there's one thing where the characters keep saying dilly dally,
See, that
shilly
was
shally.
that was one the materia obsession. That was one that I knew not because I knew the game so much, but because things like Legendary Frog and other like online videos that I had seen
Oh, that's
before
funny.
made fun of stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
There were certain references that even though I hadn't really played the game, I did pick up on. But
Yeah.
shilly shally dilly dally, I never understood, and I felt like it was like a Japanese phrase
That's what I
that
was
just
just gonna
did not
say.
translate.
It's not in the game. Like they never say anything that remotely sounds like it in the game, and it's like that. It must be a Japanese expression that doesn't translate well. Like it
Yeah,
must be. It has to be.
because there's nothing else that makes sense.
I mean, and then like the movie itself is honestly not very good. If you haven't played the games, it's confusing as hell. At this point, the animation is dated as hell, and I watched the dub, which is bad and stilted and awful. The acting is horrendous. The characters are trying to be emotional, and none of it works. Because they're clearly trying to match lip flaps, and the dialogue in the Japanese version is evidently subtle, and it's just not
Yeah.
working. Um,
So that does make me want to bring up something which I read, which, if true, is kind of dumb, where it hamstrings these new remakes because apparently they want it to sync up with this. Like they want
really?
those games to ultimately still sync up with this. Which, if that's true, I can't confirm or deny, but if that's true, that hamstrings those games because it can't do anything different. That means that Aerith still has to die, Zack
Yeah.
still has to die. All these things still need to happen for it to make sense with this movie.
That conflicts with a spoiler I saw from the new one.
Again, maybe it's not true, but that's just what I read.
I could see them connecting it in the sense that, um, spoilers for the first part of the remake, I guess, but, um, that these remakes take, and I heard someone say this, that these remakes, there's a potential that they take place after Advent Children. And it's Sephiroth having gone back in time to change the past, and that this is a new
Interesting.
timeline.
Okay, that I could see.
Because
That's interesting because he's like, I'll never be a
I'll
memory,
never be a
and
memory. It kind of ties, and that sort of leads me to a question I want to ask. Where I'm like, do you think if this game had come out 10 years later, or this movie had come out 10 years later, it would have been a game?
um, I mean, I think if this movie had come out 10 years later, yeah, it might have been a sequel like a game.
Because honestly, watching it now, it feels like it was supposed to be a game. Like its plot and its structure and its beats, it's very much like there's a lot of points where Cloud fights little minion guys. Like there's a scene early on where he fights like bipedal minion guys, and there's a couple of fights in that movie which are like, yeah, this is a boss fight. Like this is a boss fight. And there's a really
I
fun boss
certainly
fight. There's a really fun. They're on motorcycles and they're chasing each other and they're fighting each other on motorcycles. Where I'm like, this would be a fun boss fight.
I certainly think that at some point it could have been like the like on the wall as a potential sequel idea, and they just didn't have enough to make them feel like it was worth making it into a game. Like that I could believe.
But I mean,
Or
you
the
could.
technology
I would say
or the
technology.
technology I was gonna say, or the technology at the time didn't allow them to make what they wanted to make.
Because you could absolutely pad this out with running in between places and fighting guys and turn it. You could take these scenes in these movies and turn them into cutscenes like very easily. It wouldn't surprise me, in fact, if they were planning on doing a straight up game remake where it's an Advent Children remake, but it's a game and they bring back Kadaj because they really like Kadaj. Kadaj is the guy who ultimately turns into Sephiroth at the end.
Yeah.
And what's really funny is I remember that playing out differently. I remember the two other guys getting killed and then him freaking out and turning into Sephiroth. But no, he turns into Sephiroth and then he turns back and he dies, and they're still there and they just kind of fade away. I'm like, oh, that
Interesting.
plays out completely different from what I remember. And yeah, they very much like you understand. Okay, now what they are, and they're the physical embodiment of Sephiroth. So they're basically Sephiroth. I never understood why he just turned into Sephiroth at the end. It never made any sense to me.
When he merges with the head.
Yeah, yeah. I was like, why is he turning into Sephiroth? Because he is Sephiroth. That's the idea.
He's Sephiroth's will,
Yeah, he's
right?
the physical embodiment of Sephiroth's will. Yeah,
Yeah, and so the idea that you find out in the game is that Sephiroth can basically can inhabit any Genova cells,
yeah.
which is why in that movie, clearly, why he needed the head because that allows him to
So
then
I,
come
I always
back.
thought he was like a kid who was like, no, he's literally just Sephiroth. Like it's Sephiroth's spirit split off into three people. I'm like, oh, that makes sense.
That
Okay.
that makes a lot more sense
And
all of a
then
sudden.
I also watched I watched there's an anime short film that's about the Nibelheim incident, and it's two perspective. It's the Nibelheim incident, and it's Cloud or Zack dying, and it was clearly what gave them the idea to make Crisis Core. Um, because yeah, it's good. It's short. It's only like 25 minutes, and it's really pretty. And it made me go like, why haven't they made this into a full anime? Like this is really
Was
good.
was that sub or dub?
I watched it subbed. I think I watched it
Inter-
on YouTube. I think I saw it on
Interesting.
YouTube. Yeah, it's pretty good honestly. Um, it made me go. I think Advent Children should have been 2D. Should have been an anime. It would have been much better. I think, and it wouldn't have dated quite so
Interesting.
poorly. We're gonna talk about an animated Final Fantasy movie that aged poorly in a bit. Um, but yeah, that was Final Fantasy Advent Children, and Final Fantasy VII, which yeah, my goal is to beat. I mean, it's not going to happen, but I'd like to beat it by next week and come back and be like, I beat it, but I just don't think that's going to happen. Um,
You could
so
give it
with
a chance.
that, my second thing that I had seen was going to be Speed Racer. I was going to watch Speed Racer, and I watched. I watched the first 3 episodes on Tubi, and I went to go watch it, and it wasn't there, and I was like, damn it. So I decided to watch Yu-Gi-Oh instead.
Yu-Gi-Oh!
And so I watched a ton of Yu-Gi-Oh stuff.
Da da
Um,
da
I watched the
da.
first 6 or 7. I'm up to the episode where they're fighting the twins, where they're dueling the twins, who rhyme, and it's so funny because
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
I saw a video where
Get,
people were
the
like,
gate guardian guys.
um, yeah, the Gate Guardian guys. Yeah, I saw a video where people were like, Yugi cheats, and I was like, yeah, Yugi cheats, but Yugi doesn't just cheat. Other characters cheat on behalf of Yugi. Like, there's literally that duel where Kaiba like hacks into the computer and like reduces
Whoa,
the monster's attack point so Yugi can win. Yugi didn't cheat.
whoa,
Kaiba cheated on his behalf.
whoa, whoa, whoa. Let's be clear. Yugi only cheats once, and that's when he's helping Atem cheat against Pegasus to even the score. Atem cheats.
Yeah, but so many characters cheat on his behalf.
No, no,
Cheat
no,
for
that's fair.
him.
That's fair. But I'm just saying, Yugi himself doesn't
So
cheat. Atem cheats.
he cheats by association. But not
Also,
this.
you want to talk about the worst case of cheating. How about when Kaiba stands up on the edge and is like, "If you defeat me, you'll knock me off and I'll die."
That is cheating.
That's
That is also
that's
cheating.
emotional. That's emotional
But I
cheating, which is
also
almost worse.
I watched the first movie, which is not very good.
Pyramid
Because
of Light.
yeah, it's not very. The thing about anime movies is they can't do anything. Like they can't move the needle. They can't go do anything with the plot. They have to kind of jog in place. So the plots end up being kind of nothing, and it's just kind of a boring
Well,
ass duel.
they can if it's like a Naruto movie where it's like this could just take place off screen and like nothing, not like
Yeah,
like
I mean that one makes the point to be like it takes place after Battle City because everyone's after the God cards. Um,
yeah,
it's funny to me because the God cards suck. Like they're not actually good cards. They're way
they're
too hard.
hard to use.
They're way too hard to use, and they're very difficult to summon. And they're like situationally useful, but by and large, they're not very good.
Honestly, the best of them is Obelisk.
The funny thing about that movie, though, is you could tell that they really wanted to create a version of them where they all merged together, but couldn't figure out how to do it. So they just kind of like Slifer just kind of wraps himself around Obelisk and he's like, "Yeah, I've combined them. I guess is a thing I can do." But what's funny about Yu-Gi-Oh, the card game, is when you watch those early episodes before they really knew what the card game was, how much it's just Magic the Gathering.
Oh yeah,
Like right down to the fact that the reason they clearly have 2,000 attack points is because you have 20 attack point or 20 health points in Magic the Gathering. Like there's like environmental weaknesses and like spell effects and how spells are affected by things and how monster cards work that are just Magic the Gathering. And it's like it wasn't until like Battle City where they kind of realized that, oh no, we need to make this its own thing, and that's when they introduced the concept of like sacrificing monsters. So it's funny to watch something from like later in the franchise to see how it evolved. And then speaking of that, that led me to watch. I needed to watch all of the Yu-Gi-Ohs. So I have watched the first episode of all of the first episode of every single Yu-Gi-Oh series.
yikes!
So I watched Yu-Gi-Oh 5Ds, which was awful. I need to talk about Yu-Gi-Oh 5Ds, Jordan, because the premise of Yu-Gi-Oh 5Ds doesn't make a lick of goddamn sense.
Is that the one where they're on the motorcycles?
Yes, and there's no rhyme or reason for them to be on motorcycles. It's so fucking bizarre. Like they're playing, it makes their version of Yu-Gi-Oh confusing. So Yu-Gi-Oh 5Ds takes place in a dystopian future where it's a class-based society where there's the rich and the poor, and they're being like controlled by a police state who rides motorcycles and plays card games.
They live in a very strange world.
And so in the first episode, the police bust. Oh, and also the voice acting is really lazy. So you say the main character is just Tristan. It's just Tristan. Like it's super distracting. I couldn't get into it. I tried to watch one episode. I was like, maybe I'll watch a few. I was like,
he's just Tristan.
no, not that Tristan. The other Tristan.
Oh,
The
I don't know if I could do it.
The
I
boring
don't know
one.
if I could do it.
The
I don't
boring
know if I
one.
can do it. I don't know if I can do an impression of that one.
Yeah, no. But it's really distracting. And so it's like, okay, so they're on motorcycles, but it's not like a race. They're not racing each other. The motorcycles have nothing to do with the duel. It's just regular duel monsters, except for at the start of the duel, you have to play a certain magic card, and the monsters can develop like speed tokens, which impact abilities and whatever. But the actual motorcycle part of it itself, it goes into autopilot, so the motorcycle just drives itself. It is otherwise just regular duel monsters. So there's no real rhyme or reason for them to be on motorcycles, except for the fact that it
They
needed a
needed
gimmick.
a gimmick.
It needs a gimmick. And I didn't watch more than one episode, so I don't know if it gets any. And I know at a certain point in that series, they ditch the motorcycles and it just becomes regular duel monsters. So like, what is the fucking point? It's so confusing. And it just makes the battles like frenetic in a way that is obnoxious and unfun to watch. And also, as these seasons go on, they get progressively cheaper and more terrible. So like that leads me to Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal, which was not only super cheap because it's super cheap looking. The gimmick of that one is they've once again brought it back to it's about magic and shit, and he gets. I fell asleep through the second episode, so I didn't get to the point where they explained what he is. But this like weird spirit like basically teams up with the main character and does the dueling for him. So you know how like every one of these series like the duelist is like a weird dueling prodigy. No, this one the difference is he sucks. He's a bad duelist. And there's in the first episode, he's dueling this guy who the show keeps trying to convince us is good, but is also a bad duelist. And like, they're just both not very good. And the guy shows up and helps him win. And that's the gimmick for that season. And it's so cheap. The animation is so cheap.
So he cheats, basically.
Pretty much, yeah. And
he's bad at it, and he cheats.
And then the show has to spend so much time explaining how Yu-Gi-Oh works because it thinks its audience is stupid. So it's like most of the duel, it's them saying what the rules of duel monsters are, even though if you're watching Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal, chances are you know what Yu-Gi-Oh! Is and what duel monsters is. I don't need you to explain. Like at one point, like, yeah, if you attack me and your monster's attack points are lower, those attack points come out of my life points. It's like, yes, I'm watching Yu-Gi-Oh! I know how the game works.
I play Pot of Greed to draw 2 cards.
Yeah, it's like that, but like worse. Like way worse. It's so bizarre. But yeah.
I played Pot of Greed to draw 2 cards.
Did you have any questions about Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal or 5Ds? Because I can't imagine you have any questions about Yu-Gi-Oh!
Do they play Pot of Greed?
No.
To draw 2 cards.
They do not play Pot of Greed to draw 2 cards.
Oh, well, that's new.
The one thing I was going to say is when Mai shows up, you can tell that Taya really wants to call her the C word. Just like really wants to call her the C. It's like on her lips. She's like, you're such a... this is a kid's show.
I certainly think there's a few points where she wants to call her a stuck-up.
This is a kid's show.
Insert word here.
Anyway, that was Yu-Gi-Oh! I watched Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yu-Gi-Oh!
Anyway, with that, we move into the stuff I hadn't seen, which we're going to start off with another Final Fantasy movie, but it's really only a Final Fantasy movie in name only. Fun fact, they weren't originally going to call it Final Fantasy. It's a Final Fantasy Spirits Within. And originally, that movie was going to just be called Gaia, and it had nothing to do with Final Fantasy. And the only reason why they slapped the Final Fantasy name on it is because people know Final Fantasy.
Name recognition. Got it. That makes sense.
And I'm going to spare you telling you about the movie itself, because the movie itself wasn't very interesting. I'll give you a very brief summary.
How bad was it?
It's not bad so much as it's boring. So like, very quickly, very briefly, very concisely. It's about a post-apocalyptic world where this alien rock, spaceship, whatever, has crash landed into Earth and forced all of the people to retreat to cities and into space and whatnot. And the main girl has been attacked by one of these spirits, and her mentor, scientist guy, are trying to collect 8 spirits that, when brought together, will create a wave that will basically get rid of these alien things. And then
Right.
Very long story, very short. Spoiler for this very boring movie. It turns out that these aliens are not actually an invading alien force, but it was a piece of a planet that that exploded, that got ejected into space, and they're all basically ghosts who are haunting planet Earth, and they're all angry and pissed off and stuff. And by bringing together these spirits, that they will free these spirits and save the day or whatever. That's the movie, and it's got a crazy It's got a crazy cast. It's got Alec Baldwin, Donald Sutherland, James Woods, Steve
Wow.
Buscemi. I heard Steve Buscemi's voice, and I'm like, "Is that Steve Buscemi?" And I looked it up, and the main girl is you're not gonna know her by name, but it's a Ming Na Wen, and that's Mulan. So the main voice actress is Mulan, and they're
That's bizarre.
all terrible. They're all terrible in it. They all sound so fucking bored. Like it's so weird. It's like it came out in 2000, 2000 I believe. Yeah, 2001. And so it's like really early CGI animated movie. And the big selling point of it is that it's supposed to be photorealistic. And it's supposed to be it's supposed to be photorealistic, and it was super highly advanced, and it looks really pretty. And when I look up the critical reception to it, all the critical reception is the story's not very good, but it's really pretty looking, and the animation is stunning. And it really goes to show how 3D animated movies, when they're made to look photorealistic or more realistic, age badly, because I thought it looked like shit. I don't think the animation looks remotely good. And it's so funny because the main character, akira, she's the world's first photorealistic computer animated actress. And they had plans for her to appear in multiple different things. And there's weird pictures of her in a bathing suit. And like, if not for this movie failing, she would have gone on to do a bunch of stuff. But it looks horrid. It looks to me as good. The animation looked as fluid. It looked as stiff as that Donald Trump movie we watched during the season finale, or I watched it for the season finale. Like, it looked bad. It looks bad. It looks old. Like, it doesn't look photorealistic. But like when you hear,
okay. So I have a challenge for you. Tell me one nice thing about it.
I'm gonna tell you all the work that went into it, and I'm gonna praise the people that worked on this, because the amount of work that went into it is incredible. So apparently 200 people put in a combined 120 years worth of work on it. The first
120. I'm sorry. 120 years?
Amongst 200 people. That's how much work they put into it combined.
Holy shit.
So yeah, they used the in-house software SQ Flash, and when plugged into programs that Autodesk Maya and RenderMan.
RenderMan.
Yeah, the film can consist of 141,964 frames, with each of the production. Oh yeah, and this is the last thing that Square, Square Enix.
Yes, I do know Square Enix.
This is the last thing Square produced before they merged with Enix.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't realize they used to be separate companies. I didn't know there was a Square and there was an Enix.
Yeah, years and years ago they merged together. Yeah.
I've only ever known them as Square Enix.
And in Japan, that was like a big fucking deal, because Japanese people don't do that. But yeah, so the film consists of 141,964 frames, with each frame taking an average of 90 minutes to render. By the end of production, Square had a total of 15 terabytes of artwork for the movie.
Holy shit.
It was supposed to be hyper realistic, and I'm going to show you. I think I still have it on my thing. I'm going to show it to you later, just to show you how shitty it looks. Like, it did not age well. It looks bad. It's incredible, and
bad's a strong word.
It just doesn't look good. It looks boring. It looks dull. It's funny because I think that Advent Children, which at this point, I mean, it's not as old, but it looks kind of dated to me. That one still looks pretty. Like, it still looks good despite the fact that it's I think like 2D animation, I think 3D animation is gonna have that period of time where it was new and it looked bad, just like 2D animation did. Or there's that period of 2D animation where you go back now and you're like, oof, that looks rough. It looks really, but you appreciate it for what it is. And this is one of those things where I appreciate the amount of artistry and work that went into this. I mean, that's crazy. 15 terabytes of information in 2001. Like 2000,
that's a lot.
Or like 19, I mean, by the time they're making it, like 1999, like, incredible. And this thing came to America, and okay, so the budget the budget, $137 million budget. It only made 85 million at the box office.
Ooh.
Yeah, pretty
Yeah. Didn't
hardcore.
do didn't do too well.
Yeah, a render farm of 960 workstations was tasked with rendering each of the frames that it took. That's incredible. 960 work. So like your computer is just rendering one scene of this movie. And it bombed horribly. It makes me wonder, if like maybe had it not bombed horribly, would we have seen more Final Fantasy movies? And what's interesting though, that was another one when I was watching it where I was like, this could be a video game. Why wasn't this a video game? And then you read about it and it was never gonna be. At no point was this movie ever considered to be a video game. In fact, it has, again, nothing to do with Final Fantasy other than name. It was originally just going to be called Gaia. Like, it was going to have no connection to Final Fantasy whatsoever.
Interesting.
And I don't know if that name would it have completely bombed. Worse, if it didn't have that Final... Because that's the only reason why I was ever aware of it, was because it had the Final Fantasy name on it. I remember there were like posters for it everywhere. Like, they really marketed it. Like, they really did. I remember standing on there used to be at local reference, but at the Metropolis SkyTrain station, there was a splash board for it for like the longest time.
Was there?
Yeah. I remember always being like, oh, this looks cool, but I can't remember why we never ended up watching it when it was contemporary. But and then my second, that's. Do you have any further questions about Final Fantasy: Spirits Within?
Would you recommend it?
Yes. Yes and no. If you're looking for a good movie, no. It's not a good movie. If you're looking for something as part of the history of 3D animation and animation as a whole, like from an archaeological sense, it's kind of interesting to watch because you're like, wow, people thought this was impressive in 2001. I think Shrek, a movie that came out, I'll put it to you this way. I think Toy Story, a movie that came out in 1997, looks better than this movie. I think Shrek looks better and is held up better, but it came out around the same time as this movie. Like, so...
Interesting.
That's what it was. That's what I was going to say. It is basically the granddaddy precursor to those Bob Zemeckis movies where it was like the Uncanny Valley. Yeah. It's what led to that, essentially.
Interesting.
Yeah. I'm gonna say I'll show you some because I think I haven't deleted it yet. I'll show you some later. You'll agree with me. You'll think it looks ugly. And so then the second movie I watched it this morning. I finally watched Akira. Have you heard of Akira? Have you heard of Akira?
That only because of Rick and Morty, where Morty has the gem in his head and he's going around predicting the future, killing people.
Oh yeah, he's like it's an Akira. Yeah,
he's doing an Akira. We need to stop him.
Very briefly, because Akira, like Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within, the plot of Akira for me is the least interesting part of it. Its cultural significance is the more interesting part. We're going to talk about that more. But very briefly, Jordan, Akira takes place in the year 2019. So,
still our past.
And yeah, in 1988, there was what looked like a nuclear explosion in Japan, and that caused World War III. And so this movie takes place in a retro-futuristic dystopian society where, you know, there's a lot of anti-government sentiment. The government is like trying to control people, and you find out that there is a group of psychics called Spurs, and that the explosion was caused by like one of the more powerful ones, and he was he basically destroyed it and caused this, and so through one scenario or another, one of this biker gang, anti-government biker gang, crashes into one of these Espers and has his powers unlocked, and he's slowly becoming this ultra powerful, crazy psychic guy, and he has a complex about his friend having to save him, and he's really like low self-esteem kind of guy, and he's now all powerful, and he basically is trying to amass more power, and he goes after Akira to try and, because it turns out that Akira may still be alive and is being held in cryo sleep or whatever, and he goes after him to try and basically get more power. And that's basically it. It's a lot of characters yelling about how a character's too strong and needs to be stopped, and he has too much power and whatever. And it's a dystopian future. That's all you really need to know. But what's fascinating is even if you don't think you've seen an image from Akira, you've seen something from Akira, because it's funny you say Rick and Morty, but you remember that episode of you remember the episode of South
Trapper
Park?
Keeper.
Trapper Keeper. That is
Trapper Keeper.
That is literally Akira. Like it's grosser in the original version. Like it's like it's just this amorphous like gooey flesh beast that's just hands, because he gets his arm shot off by like a super gun, and he goes up into space and like absorbs the metal gun, and it's like one of those like he has these the implication. It's kind of a metaphor for how they say that every person in Japan has a little bit of nuclear fallout in them. Well, the idea is that every person has a little bit of Akira in them, and that it just needs to be unlocked. And this guy's Akira powers gets unlocked, and he's as strong as the original Akira, and he can't be stopped. And they keep telling him, like, they try to kill him so he won't destroy the world. And they basically are like, the more you use these powers, the more you'll lose control of them. And he eventually loses total control of them and turns into the Thing from South Park. And the three Espers bring back Akira, and it turns out that Akira, when he blew himself up, basically transcended this Earth, basically this universe, transcended this universe and created a whole new universe, and went there, and it's basically become like a formless god, basically of a higher being. And he comes back and basically creates a singularity event using the same power that he had before, and like stops the guy from destroying the town and takes all of them with him to the new dimension, and saves the day. But also, like, there's it's funny, there's a bit where the guy's on a motorcycle and he slides back, and this might be taxing your memory, but you remember in Advent Children where there's that bit where it's Cloud's on his motorcycle, and he does the side slide, and he takes his sword and he sticks it in the ground and it stops him?
Yeah, I think so.
That's from Akira. Like, shot for shot, that shot's from Akira, yeah. And I looked it up. Dragon Ball came out before Akira, but Dragon Ball Z came out after Akira, and it borrows so much from Akira, like in terms of like guys flying and fighting. And it's funny, for however much I said that Final Fantasy Spirits Within dated poorly, Akira looks phenomenal. Like, the animation is so fluid. It's an adult animation, so it's really bloody and gory and gross and
2D?
like 2D, 2D animated.
Yeah, that's why.
It's really pretty. It's gorgeous looking. Like there's when they're riding their motorcycles, there's enough detail. Like the clothes like flutter in the wind, and like the fighting. It's like Dragon Ball Z took so much from this, from this, and it's one of those anime like anyone who likes anime in the West like it because of Akira, and everyone's always said that. And I've always been like, yeah, right, whatever. And then it's one of those movies that you watch and you're like, yeah, I get it. Like, there's a reason this is iconic. Like, this is an iconic piece of cinema that still looks good. And it has that, like, 1980s anime aesthetic, which is, like kind of like, in terms of animation, it's a bit closer to, like, a Speed Racer, where it's not, like, they don't have, like, the big eyes or the... It's not immediately like an anime. It's
not shonen.
Yeah, it's not a shonen. Yeah, but you could see where shonen takes its inspiration from it. Certainly, it was really good and really interesting. And it was long, but I enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty good. Do you have any questions about Akira, Jordan?
Would you recommend it?
Yes, absolutely. Anyone who likes anime and science fiction, and if you like Minority Report, if you like dystopian science fiction in particular, it's one of the better more interesting dystopian science fiction movies I ever saw. If I were to watch it again, remember how you were like, stupid fucking Amazon Prime? Google said Amazon Prime was in it, but then when I went to watch it, it says I don't have a Prime subscription, which is confusing, because is that different? I don't know, but it wouldn't let me pick it if unless I had like I signed up for a free trial. So I was like, so annoying. So I had to download it, and it was in Japanese. So if I were to watch it again, I'd like to watch the dub, one of the dubs, to see if it's any different. Fun fact: the main character is in the one of the dubs is voiced by the guy who played the Black Ranger.
Really?
Yeah, Johnny Young Bosch. Yeah.
Interesting. Interesting.
Um,
Very interesting.
um, so with that, I think that's gonna wrap up anime of our trip to Japan. Jordan, did you have fun watching some anime?
I did. They were enjoyable movies
And
and show.
and to wrap this up, because we've already said the assignment. Obviously, this is to be continued. To be continued. Throw up the thing from shit. No, let's try this again. To be continued. Throw up the logo from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. I don't know if that's a reference you get.
No.
Next week, part two of our epic. Definitely gonna be shorter next week. Of our season 2 premiere is live action. Live action. We're gonna be talking about some live action stuff, and you know, because we already know what it's gonna be. I want to do a little sneak preview. I want to allow Jordan the opportunity, because Jordan's gonna be watching. I released a short that gave a little sneak preview of what Jordan's gonna be watching. He's gonna be watching Kamen Rider Forze. I have picked my Kamen Rider. I'm doing Kamen Rider Geats. I've watched 10 episodes of it. It's quite good. I'm excited to talk about that next week. Jordan hasn't watched a thing from Kamen Rider Forze, so I'm gonna take this moment as we go through the assignment. Jordan, you're allowed to ask 2 questions about it, and I want you to make a prediction of what you think is gonna happen in the series.
Okay, with Kamen Rider, there's one person that transforms, right?
No,
No?
not in your season. No.
Okay. Okay, in my season, okay, well that leads to my first question then. In my season, how many characters transform?
In the series itself, just 2.
Just 2?
Yeah.
What episode does the first transformation happen?
Of the main one,
Yeah.
first episode.
First episode?
Oh yeah, first episode.
Okay. Okay. So now having no frame of reference for the show at all, because I haven't looked into it at all or watched anything from it, and all I know is that it's a transforming superhero. My prediction is that it's going to end up feeling formulaic.
Yes. Here's what I will give you. Kind of, but not in the way you're expecting. In an interesting way. Like, not any more than an anime. That's how I would say it. It's less formulaic than an episode of Power Rangers. It's not like Power Rangers where it's like everyone's got to learn a lesson by the end of it. That's not how it works. This one is a bit more formulaic in the sense that it's about a high school student, and it's about high school. I figured that would be more approachable for you. You're allowed to switch it up last minute if you want, though.
No, I already have this one downloaded. No, we're not doing that.
Yeah, Geet for me, since I gave Forza, Geets is about, it's basically as of right now, because I'm only 10 episodes in, it appears to be Battle Royale, but with Kamen Rider.
Ooh,
yeah.
Fun.
Yeah, it's been pretty fun so far, and I like the design. But we'll talk about Kamen Rider and aesthetics of Kamen Rider next week. Other than that, we're gonna once again, the rules are the same. Try to pick some stuff you have seen. You don't have to pick anything more than Kamen Rider Forze for stuff you haven't seen. But if you want to throw in some stuff you haven't seen, I probably will as well. But next week, that's an extended sneak preview of next week, which we will be talking about live action stuff from Japan. It's going to be a good time. Come back to see part 2, the reckoning. But with that has been another episode of the Spur of the Moment podcast. Thanks to our sponsor once again, Susan with Flight Center. Go check her out. She will get you traveling to Japan. She already is. She's getting someone traveling to Japan. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Yeah.
She'll get you
Link in the
anywhere you want.
description below.
Link in the description
Let her know
below.
that we sent you.
Yep. But as always, you can find us. You can contact the show if you want to contact the show. If I start to see enough contact, maybe we'll read some letters, some comments. Who knows? But that's it's justinsbusiness@gmail.com. That is, of course, in the description of this video, or at least it will be. You can find me on TikTok. I'm on TikTok. It's not getting banned in my country, so I'm still there. I'm still making videos. It's still more or less this, but shorter. I do comedy sometimes. Jordan, where can they find you? Where is the spot?
I have a Twitch where I play Minecraft Mondays on Monday.
And Jordan will be back this week. He's been taking a week off from Minecraft Mondays because we were Elseworlds.
We were on our season break.
We were in parts unknown. So he'll be back on
Season,
Monday.
or-
And Discord, if you want to give suggestions, hang out, chat. If for some reason you want to be on the podcast, you can join us on Discord. Open invitations. I may have some stuff in the work for some appearances myself on other people's podcasts. But people are always welcome to come hang out with us on the podcast. You just got to bring a thing. That's all we ask. If you want to come next week and talk about some Super Sentai or some Kamen Rider, you can do that. Come join us. But as always,
or Godzilla.